Aloha, 93.5. This is Aloha Nation Live. This evening at the station, we have great guests for you. The show is about the rat-lung worm. We have Smiley with us. We have Dr. Sally with us, and Dawn with us, and my lovely wife, Chris. Actually, I'm going to run around the table and let everybody introduce themselves. So if you would start, Dawn.
Hi, my name is Dawn. I am the owner and person of interest in Vitality Natural Medicine Clinic with my wife, Dr. Sally Burrows.
And I'm the lovely wife, Chris. I'm a concerned liver of Aloha. I want to know what I can do to keep myself healthy.
Aloha, I'm Smiley Burrows, and I'm here. My son got sick with rat lungworm 2 years ago, and I've lived in Puna for 20 years. So when he got sick, I started really studying about how to educate people and create awareness, and it's been a definite
journey.
A journey.
My gosh.
Yeah.
And again,
Right.
tell us.
Okay, my name is Dr. Sally Daughtry. I'm a naturopathic physician. I graduated from Vassar University, did a residency in family care and primary care in Seattle, Washington. And I own and run Vitality Natural Medicine Clinic, which is a primary care medical clinic in Pahoa.
Yes, downtown
Pahoa. Downtown Pahoa, and we do integrated medicine there. And my husband Don is the business manager of the clinic.
Wonderful. Thank you all for being here. This is a terrifically important topic, particularly for us in Pahoa and Smiley, and we all know your son, and we're terribly concerned when all of this happened. We have indeed, we were talking about this before we went live, and there's so much, there's so many directions to go, there's so much information. I can only imagine that we will have a follow-up show to this in order to make sure that we cover all of it. But I think that some of the stuff that we did, I guess part of it that would be, to bring it around, is if we could have a definition of really what this is that we're talking about. Is it Chris? My lovely wife Chris did research on this and came up with really just frightening. I know we were discussing it earlier before going live. Just information that seems to have been around for far too long for us to have so little information about it. And Chris, you want to just throw a couple of bullets at us of some of that information that the earliest documented cases? Or?
I didn't say I had to have stuff ready.
No, I didn't, but that's okay.
Did you mention 1930?
Yeah, 1930, isn't that like, I thought it was 1935 was the first time they were aware of it, and that was in China or something like that.
But I mean, the frightening, that 1935. That
Yeah,
had been,
and then I think in Hawaii, the first one was like in 1949 or something like that.
so again, 1949, and here we are, 2017, and we're still struggling with a whole bunch of a menu of things that need to be looked at. So I guess to talk about things first, and now that we know where that it's been known for quite some time, do you want to try to give us an idea of what it is that we know it is, what kind of a virus, what kind of a parasite?
Well, it's actually a parasite. It has a very complicated life cycle that goes through rats. Humans are not its goal. It doesn't want to live in humans. So when we eat this critter, that it comes through rats, through slugs, through slug slime, through nematodes into us, we swallow it.
I want to interrupt you just so that when we say that when we eat it, I think that it's important that people understand how easily that happens.
Oh yes.
So when we eat it, we're talking about virtually every green. Is there particular types of foods that we're eating that is more that the virus is more, the parasite is more prominent in?
So the prominent food that people get sick from rat lungworm is raw food.
Right.
You can cook your food, boil it for 5 minutes, bake it, stir fry it, or you can freeze it for 48 hours, and that will kill the parasite. So initially it started from all of us 20 years ago with big, huge gardens of lettuce and arugulas and fresh
greens, lots of greens,
kale, and we were grazing. You rinse it off and eat it.
Sure.
But people started dropping and getting sick from this
Yeah,
disease
fascinating.
and disappearing for 6 months. You know, basically it started out where these cases were happening. We really didn't understand the disease, and you just wouldn't see these people for months and months because
Sure.
they couldn't move.
Right, and nobody knew.
And then they
Nobody-
look like a zombie.
And
Yeah,
then
they
right.
appeared.
And you know,
Yes.
I did want to interject that another thing that Chris had discovered, which we thought was a little disturbing, was the state of Hawaii and its stand where it is, what information is available through them. Where, and I think you also touched on it as well, Don, where you had looked into this just recently, kind of in preparation for this, and you wanted to share some of that, where the information was frightening that they don't have.
Well, in any kind of state bureaucracy, there's going to be a slow turning of wheels to get things started. This goes to any state. This is not just Hawaii.
Certainly. Yeah,
So,
in fairness.
and in fairness to the government officials, I had worked for the state for myself for 25 years, so I know how this works. And part of the deal is this very delicate balance of how big of an effect, how big of an impact it is on a community versus what the economic impact of this issue is on that community, that very same community, by the lack of tourist drop off,
Sure.
any kind of drop off, farms being closed, right? We talked about farms being closed over this issue. So what happens next is that there is a need not to upset the apple cart. So, and then information is not relayed. So I bulldogged basically this information down, and our clinic, Vitality Natural Medicine Clinic, has found out the exact lab and lab tests that we can do to determine if somebody does have
Sure.
rat lungworm.
Which is one of the things, excuse me, it's one of the topics all by itself that we are going to address this evening, is because it was one of the things that we discovered is sort of the credibility of the test and how the professional medical community reviews those tests, if they readily offer those tests, if they immediately occurs to them when someone comes through the door and isn't well, could it possibly be rat lungworm? Should we be administering these tests? And it seems like that doesn't seem to be the case.
That gets back to what I was saying too, is that the largest impact of this disease, if I guess that's what we're going to call it disease, is among the low income. So therefore, the people that come in have very few resources.
Certainly.
So they're going into a very busy clinic, say the Bay Clinic or something like that. They may have 30 people in there.
Certainly.
The doctor has 2 minutes to see all these people.
7 is the national average.
7 is the national
7
average.
minutes.
And we're talking in Pahoa where people are profoundly sick, and that's the only avenue.
Yep.
And
And-
thank God they're there.
Thank God they're
Certainly.
there.
So we're not
You know,
criticizing
I don't want to.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
Understood.
So what happens next is the doctor has to make a very speedy, almost on his feet diagnosis.
Yeah,
Is this
visual.
rat lung, and am I going to try to bill this person's Medicare, Medicaid, or whatever for this fairly expensive?
Well,
to-
again, why do we know? Can we talk about what is currently the test
What-
that is?
I would have to get back to Dr. Sally on that.
You want to talk about the test?
Well,
or
just so people
should you get the test?
what is there a test?
There is a test,
There is
yes.
a test that
Yes.
is specifically designed in order to detect
Right.
rat lungworm. There are 2 tests that.
No, we have
There's
2
2 labs.
local
Oh,
labs
well, there are 2.
that will test it.
Understood.
Right.
Which is this I just learned today. This is huge.
Right.
Because the diagnostic testing in the emergency center is excruciating. It involves spinal tap,
Okay.
which
Okay.
is
So
very
I need
dangerous.
let's just
So
so that
this
people
test
know.
has been what the researchers have been trying to bring in, and these guys have actually made it possible to have it available
We dug
here.
it out.
So,
We persevered.
But just so that people understand,
Yes.
what you're talking about is
Yes.
that the procedure is a spinal tap. Which
No,
Not anymore.
not.
this
Okay.
is
Because that was
this
daunting
is-
to me. I
it's-
thought,
yeah,
my
it
God.
was-
horrible.
So,
this
okay,
is what
so
they've
that
been trying to
was
bring
that,
in.
that
The researchers have been trying to get this, and these
Okay.
guys have it.
So
Okay,
in
so there's a new
2014,
test. It's not a
I had a
Yes.
very, very
It's
sick
good.
patient come in, and I persevered and persisted until I found this test, and the local lab ran this test.
Because you
for me.
suspected that it was.
Yes, I suspected because I have an
And it
hour
was
to an
now.
hour and a half with a patient.
Sure,
okay,
well,
the
much
average
better than
MD
7 minutes.
Right, has 7 to 15 minutes.
Yeah.
So I have enough time to rule out a lot of things. If someone walks in with rat lungworm and you look at them as a doctor, there's a dozen things that come to mind. Is this cancer?
Certainly.
Is this
Yep.
drug overdose?
Sure.
Is this hepatitis? Is this? And you have to very quickly decide.
Where to go?
Lepto,
Yeah.
right. There's so many things. And tropical
Lyme
medicine
disease.
is the bastard stepchild of medicine.
Certainly.
You-
Well, we
you are
live in a
living
petri
in-
dish, right? With-
You are living in a petri dish and you're living in some of the least funded medical research
Sure.
areas of the
Yeah.
world.
Yeah,
Tropical
fascinating.
medicine is not considered high status medicine in the first place. So
Certainly
the
well.
testing, the knowledge about what we could be getting here is low compared to if you're in Washington, D.C.
Certainly.
So when you walk in and that person walks in and they're that sick, there's a lot of things you've got to think about. Could this be?
Try to narrow
Okay.
this down.
So, because I had an hour and a half with this man who was profoundly ill, I was able to rule out all kinds of other things and go, wow, I bet this is rat lungworm.
Wow.
How do we find out? Do I need to send him in for a spinal tap, which is what it was looking like?
That-
which was
then that was what
That
it
terrifying.
was common. That's
Right.
That was
been
what
the
it was.
common.
Right. So we
Protocol.
found an antibody test. It's a normal test. We got the regular lab to run it. It costs $150 at that lab to get that test done. If you
That's
get it
through
done,
blood. It's a blood. It's still
it's a blood draw.
Yeah,
All it is
yeah.
a simple blood draw, just
Yeah.
like if you would go in and get your blood drawn to
Sure.
test for anemia
Yeah,
or
yeah, yeah.
anything like that.
Phenomenal.
It's
I
a
mean-
simple blood draw. It's
Now they
almost
have the
So
dot
that
block.
is what we
It's-
did as well. Is that what we did, Phoenix? For
Absolutely
the-
not. Phoenix was initially in Pahoa misdiagnosed
Oh, I
with
see.
Bell's palsy, which is kind of like a stroke
Certainly,
on
yeah,
half
I'm
of your
familiar.
face,
Yeah.
and ruling out all of the aches and the pain and the insomnia for a good week and a half that he'd experienced. The doctor just immediately diagnosed him
Mm.
and put him on steroids, which he didn't take. 2 days later, I had this feeling that it wasn't Bell's
Something was wrong.
palsy,
Yeah.
and
But
yeah,
that was
So that was
but that was
Yeah.
the when I remember during that event, and I'd asked you guys about that because we all went to have blood drawn,
yes,
and then
yes.
then we kind of I never heard anything about that. Chris, can you pull up that information about where else in the world? Because I
It's
think
in
that,
23 countries
Yeah,
now.
yeah.
Smiley knows.
It's in
Yeah.
23 countries and it's spreading. And the thing with the medical establishment is John Martell is the head of Hale Medical Center and was
On
going
board
through
and-
devastation, dealing with the protocols that the Department of Health were trying to administrate, as well as learning from researchers from around the world. And as he's had to deal with multiple cases, he's set a protocol now which is standard of an anti-parasitic with conjunction of a steroid. That's a
interesting.
pharmaceutical
Yeah.
path that
Well, before we go on that, I didn't mean to completely interrupt the test process. I think it's important that people
Okay.
have a good working knowledge of.
Right.
First, I guess what is going to happen. What's
Well,
going to
first-
happen?
May I on this because I actually talked to the labs
Yes, please.
today. I actually talked to the
This is Don.
This is very new information. I actually talked to the labs today. 2 of the local labs do have tests. One is $85, the other is $159.50.
Is it covered? Do you know? Does that?
It is covered by if your MD prescribes it.
Oh, I see.
Very careful.
But
phenomenal.
I'm telling you because just in case you don't have insurance
That's
or
right.
you don't want to deal with your doctor, whatever, the cash pay price when you walk up to the lab is $159.50 at one lab, $85.95 at another lab.
And what are you bringing them? How's that process happen? How would you actually get
Yes.
that done?
Okay. There's a couple ways to get it done.
this will roll it out.
Yes. If you go to your regular primary care physician and say I want this test, and they say I have no idea what this test is.
Which is likely because remember, doctors are not taught a lot about tropical medicine.
fascinating.
Even
Even though
doctors
they're here.
working in the tropics.
Yeah.
That is not your individual physician's
Yeah.
fault.
A
That is
different,
an
a different
insti-
show.
Right. That is an institutional problem.
It's
So don't
just-
get
it's
down on your
sure,
regular
sure.
doctor
Right.
if they don't know a lot about this yet.
So the process is that if your doctor does not know about this,
Is this something you can do? I'm
I'm
Okay.
getting onto that.
Okay, good.
If you feel free to call our clinic, we have the
Why don't you
codes.
tell them how to get in touch
Oh,
with the clinic?
call Vitality Natural Medicine Clinic. You can talk to Don or Morgan. We're at the front desk every day, Monday through Thursday. If you give us a call at 965-2233, that's 222 Trees Bra. Okay? Give us a call. And we will give you the codes, or what we call a requisition form, rec form in medical slang. We will give this. You can take it back to your doctor if you don't want to be our patient.
Because you do have to be your patient for you to do this.
Yes, it is not ethical, nor is it standard practice to just hand a lab form to somebody and let them walk out the door. They do need to be your patient. So if you don't want to be our patient, be a patient of somebody's. Get our codes from us. We will give you out that for free. It doesn't cost you a dime. We'll give you the code and what to ask your doctor to go ahead and get that test from your doctor. Now, if your doctor still will not give you the test, right, either go find another doctor or come see us.
How many days is that, does it take to determine?
Any lab test that's sent out to the mainland, which this is sent to Georgia, is at least 14 days, and I would give a 21-day buffer zone.
So we're needing
Yeah,
that lab here on the Big Island.
Oh,
And
yeah.
that will probably, I have to say, that will probably never happen. It's not cost effective and never
Right,
will.
not yet, right.
Well, no, because this is something that I deal with every day. I deal with private labs of many other different things. Labs have to specialize in order to stay alive. This lab, everybody in the world just about sends to Georgia.
It would take some.
Interesting.
It would take some various sort of funding, which is a great idea.
Idea, but it's millions of dollars.
And it's out of our range
Yeah.
right now. So what
Sure,
we do is we treat presumptively and cautiously
Sure.
and integratively. So we use Western medical drugs. I think steroids are a great idea if you have an acute case of rat.
Well, that's so interesting.
Say
And
steroids
you
are a
had said
bad
that you
idea.
wanted to mention the
Right,
steroids.
and I'm a naturopath, so if I'm
Yeah.
saying steroids, you know,
Yeah.
brain
Yeah.
swelling is no
Yeah.
joke.
Yeah,
It can cause
absolutely.
serious permanent damage. And those drugs in the short term help prevent
Yeah.
that from happening. and
Well, you know
help
what? I'm
save
actually.
life.
I want to
In
interrupt you
conjunction
again
with
because
the
I think that
Right.
something that I think is kind of would be good for folks to know at this point as well. After we've kind of identified it, and we've said that there are tests available for it, and hopefully without starting a panic of any type.
Right.
I would. There's a couple of things that I think we should talk about. One of them is. How it is that this is what it is. That's the snail
How to
and
get
the
it.
slug. But the other thing is the other thing is the symptoms. See,
Yes.
so that people
Right.
that are feeling something that are
Right.
you know, and that's why I said not to start a panic, but. If
put it in
you know
a-
if you can give them examples of
Make it a-
how if they are just not feeling right, if
Could it
something,
be rat lung?
yeah, could it be?
Could it be
I mean,
something
so
serious?
and just as easily, hopefully, we can eliminate it as a possibility in others that are not feeling
I
well.
can speak to that a little bit right now. Is that I run the demographics at the front desk of people who come to us. When dengue fever hit here,
Yeah,
I had
yeah.
at least 30 people were sure that they had dengue fever.
Well, there are those that get everything.
Well, no.
I think I have rat lung too.
We're a private clinic, so people don't come and throw down their money for nothing.
Right.
Okay, what I have to say is
I
that
think I'm okay.
symptoms can be there that present very much like rat lung.
Well, can we tell what the symptoms are?
Give me just a second
Go
on
ahead,
that.
do it.
Symptoms can present themselves for anything. Lab testing is the very first thing you do to rule that out.
Mm-hmm.
It's not an expensive test as tests go. These ELISA tests is what this type of test is called. Can be very expensive for other things. I've seen when I was looking today, a lot of labs cost $650 for an ELISA
Oh my.
test. So this on the grand scale.
Yeah,
lab
you just
test-
tell everybody what that test is.
I would have to defer a little bit.
If you can, is there a brief way of describing what
Sally.
that, or is that a whole bank of?
There's a whole range of tests called ELISA tests
I see.
that tests for the presence of an antibody, which is your immune system has detected this critter and wants to kill it
Yes.
and is looking around for it, and we pick up the presence of that part of your immune system
They
that
are
is trying to
looking-
kill that critter
Interesting.
in the blood. That's an
Interesting.
antibody test, and that's the type of blood test this is. And there are many different types of those
Mm.
under that umbrella. Okay, so we're picking up your immune response to the creature.
Wow.
Okay, which is easier than trying to find the actual parasite, which would be like finding a needle in a haystack.
Certainly,
right?
yeah,
So,
yeah.
and so
That's what makes the diagnostics difficult here is when they take the spinal fluid to test for the parasite. It's a maybe, even if they do have the rat lungworm, they don't necessarily
not
specify it.
there.
All right,
Exactly.
Smiley. A yes is a good yes. A no means we didn't find it.
Oh,
It doesn't
interesting.
mean it's not
That's-
there.
that's a
Those are
terrific
two
way to
different
put it.
no's,
Yeah,
right?
that's terrific.
There's a hard no and a soft no.
Certainly.
Okay,
Great.
so and whenever you're testing for parasites, you need to make sure, what kind of no did I get?
Yeah,
Did I get a
that's
hard
right.
no? Did I get a soft no?
But then
Right.
vital information for people to have that type of knowledge to ask.
Right.
You know, is this a soft no or is it a hard no?
Right.
And I think that you'll see a lot of amazed health officials when people, normal people, start asking those kind of questions.
And let me just say too, what a lot of people are saying to me is, oh, I did an eosinophilia test and that was negative. Okay, which is an inaccurate way to test for parasites. Historically in medical school we're taught if you test for different types of white blood cells, this kind responds to this infection, this kind responds to this infection, this responds to this. So if you only, if you have this one high, you have parasites, and if this one called eosinophils is normal, you don't have parasites.
Fascinating.
And that is completely not true.
Well, I mean, it obviously it was believed for a while. It was the best that
Right.
people had.
It's
and
the
now,
same thing. And yes, on that, if eosinophils are raised, you very likely have parasites.
Yeah, interesting.
But a lot of my patients are coming in with normal eosinophils and clear antibodies for rat lungworm. So
Oh,
that is it.
fascinating.
If you use that as a screening test, if your
Yeah.
doctor has just run what's called a CBC,
Right.
and that came back okay, that does not mean you don't have rat lungworm.
My
It
gosh.
does not mean that.
This
And
is,
if
I'll
they-
tell you, and for all of the people that are listening, I mean, you obviously this is so much information. And we're trying to keep it as conversational as possible, and it does get very technical very quickly. But do know that we are 93.5 Aloha Nation Live, and this is being filmed by our dear friend Roger, and that's everyone saying hello to Roger, and it will be recorded as well and available to be replayed. So do please keep
Okay,
keep
so I
going.
think since what you said is true, this is scary and complicated. So I think what we're going to do from the clinic is put out just a one-page fact sheet.
That's
Here's
wonderful.
the test. If this is a firm yes, this is a soft yes, get this done, get this done. We'll put out something for you guys that you can just come pick up at the clinic,
That's wonderful.
take to your doctor and say,
Yeah.
I want this test, can you please run this?
Yeah.
And
And
help
within a
clarify it.
week, we'll have that on our website, www.sally.com. That's
Okay, that's a
dosally.com.
good idea.
Yeah, great idea.
Yeah.
That is a
Yeah.
great idea. We'll
Okay.
and on our website for Aloha Nation Live, we'll try to get our
Link it.
extraordinary
Yeah.
crew of volunteer, wonderful people that are all volunteers here at 93.5. We'll try to get them to get links and those types of items up on our website as well. So but I think that it's important that we continue with where we are
Okay.
with this and because it's terrific that the information's so vital, and we so
Right.
thank you for being
So
on
what
this
we
show.
don't want people to do is just say, oh, I had a CBC done.
Yes, important.
That
It's
that
fine.
one EO thing was fine. So all these
So it must
aches-
not be.
So these symptoms. Now let's go into symptoms. So these symptoms couldn't mean rat lungworm when they
Sure.
actually could. It's possible.
As Phoenix got sick, I realized
Yeah, let's
it was
talk about
very
symptoms.
it was
Right.
very specific, and because we have had so many friends get sick with rat lungworm.
Well, there's
it's-
so many
it's
different
very,
ways.
It's clarified. I mean, there's basically the semi-slug was introduced about 17 years ago.
Well, let's define, if you would, the semi-slug.
So the
is-
semi-slug is a mollusk,
It
Paramarian
does not have a hard
martensi.
shell.
This came from Southeast Asia, possibly in some potted plants because
Sure.
the Department of Ag missed them.
Yeah,
So they
easy enough.
started spreading. It is. It's not to put any
Sure,
blame on
understood,
them.
understood.
It is an invasive that came and has
Yeah,
multiplied.
this is definitely
It's
not
up-
about blame. We're trying
No,
to come up with
exactly.
we will
We're-
be as helpful as possible and
That's
hope
right.
that those that are in
That's right.
positions of authority and certainly in funding, which is another issue we'll talk about dealing with this, but what we're certainly trying to help. So yeah, please go on.
So as Hawaii did have the parasite prior to the semi-slug in the African snails, not all of them carry the parasite. The semi-slug that was introduced can have up to 7,000 parasites
Yes.
in one
Yeah.
mature
Yeah,
slug.
did you? Chris had.
That's what I read
Chris
after.
had discovered.
Oh, yeah.
And,
So
and in fact, you had discovered information that was saying that it was more than just the one particular type of snail. And again, not to cause a ridiculous panic, but I think awareness is not that doesn't translate to panic. You also had some information about the possibility of what were the other
Just the larvae states. That's all.
no,
That they can still
the
carry
other
parasites.
wasn't it frogs
Well, I didn't know. I
there-
couldn't find
yes.
out if it was frogs or not.
Freshwater prawns can carry the parasite,
Oh,
as well as flatworms,
Flatworms
Cuban
is-
slugs, African snails, the semi-slug,
Right.
and then there's
The reason I'm
more.
stopping you and wanted to emphasize that is because I think that people are always good. They're so
You
quick
can
to.
test
They're
them.
so quick though to say,
You can
"Oh, I
take
don't
them.
have that kind of snail."
So-
So I
Right.
don't, you
So,
know, so
like,
I don't have the issue.
You have it.
So I
Trust
should-
me.
right,
If you
so
live in
it's
Hawaii,
important.
it's
Right.
around you.
So
Yeah,
this,
great
and
point,
now, you know, the reality is, in the last 20 years, it has absolutely multiplied and
Mm-hmm.
populated. It's
The parasite, you mean,
the
or the
slug.
availability of
The
it.
slug
right?
itself.
I mean,
Yeah.
is it? I mean, it's kind of it's a little bit unpleasant to
It's a pest.
think about how it is. But why don't we just for those that don't know, why don't we just talk about how it actually does what it does, how the snail contracts it, transmits it, and how that process happens.
Can I interrupt for one moment here from what Sally had said for a moment about this as well? And she actually touched about how many nematodes can be
yes.
in this. Is that one of the very important things to say about this is that it's actually dose related.
Right.
That
Yes.
means if you get a small amount, you have a lower,
A little sick.
a little sick.
Yeah.
If you
You
if
only
a-
have two worms in
Yeah.
your brain.
So if you were to, if you were to, like, I believe there was one dare, something like that. Some kid dared another kid to eat a slug, and oh my
He was on
god!
the military. I met the doctor that actually dealt with the
My God.
slug
Right.
bet in the 80s.
Right.
And
So now we
It's
are
been
good. So
around.
the semi.
that was
slug,
not a
that was-
semi-slug.
Oh, there was.
This one came in around 2003 and into our community down in Lower Puna.
Yes.
And people started just
Getting
getting
ill.
extremely sick. And but it was something where we weren't educated about our water systems.
So it is. I mean, again. So the slug, the parasite that we're discussing, is in. It starts its existence in the
It is
slug.
a parasite that goes in between a slug and a rat in
Okay.
4 larval stages.
Okay. So it starts in the slug.
It starts in the rat.
Starts in the rat.
Develops as eggs in their lungs, which is why
And
they
they-
call it rat lungworm.
Interesting. Sure.
And
Okay.
and as they cough them out, they digest them and poop them out, which is in that time the second larval stage.
Okay. So now we
the
have rat
snail comes along and finds the rat poop and
loves it.
loves it, where it becomes
Eats it.
the
It
third
eats
larval
it.
stage
It
in the
consumes it.
slug. When you ingest it by accident, whether it's on a slimy piece of raw food
Okay. So now again. So now we're talking about now
Or
the
a
snail has the
hose.
parasite.
or a weed whacker, it can possibly get into your eyes.
It has. So
You know,
wait.
there's many
So
ways of
the slug
contracting
has
it.
it. The slug has
The
the
slug
parasite
has
now.
the
It's in
parasite
its final stage.
In the third stage.
Third stage. So now it's going to be transferred through the smear that a slug
As
leaves
well
behind.
as the slug itself.
As the slug itself. Okay, so
And
highly
if a
unlikely other than
slug-
the instant just
If a
said
slug
about
drops
eating
in your water tank,
Okay.
after the slug dies, the parasite will
Lives on.
continue to thrive in the
Interesting.
water tank.
In the water. So
And
water does not
that's
drown it.
where we need to start distributing safer filters
Sure.
in the big box stores,
So again,
because
so-
right now we're not
So water,
safe.
the catchment water. I know the catchment actually is.
Yes.
Let's wait on that because that's kind of a topic all
Yeah.
on its own as well. But so the slug transfers this by crawling over the actual your garden. Somehow it's going to get transferred to something that you're going to eat or you're going to touch. Any of your you can get it from your hands, touching your eyes or your is that
One of
People
our
are
worst
not
cases.
sure
One of our worst cases. We believe the guy was cleaning his catchment,
Yeah.
and he got it in his eyes.
wow.
Yeah.
Okay, he did not ingest it the normal way a lot of people have been getting.
That was a heavy contamination in the eyes,
Wow.
though. I
Yeah.
would not focus on
Yeah.
worrying so
Yeah,
much
exactly.
about your eyes.
Sure.
I would use protection if you're
Yeah.
weed
Like,
whacking.
cleaning
Okay,
catchments.
but I wouldn't start freaking out about
Yeah,
eyes. Most
right.
of this is from people eating
Food.
99% of it.
All right, so then
Okay,
again,
let's
that's
focus
that,
on that.
and that's in the food thing is huge as well. So
Huge.
I mean, so and again, I think we'll wait on the food thing just for a second so that we can so the idea now is that that you ingest somehow,
ingest.
and we'll get to that.
Yes.
Somehow you ingest this parasite. Now this parasite's trip is trying to get to your brain. Is that correct? Is that what we discovered, Chris? I think when
I
we're
think
in.
it goes. I don't think they're trying to get there.
They
I think
because
they're looking
They're trying to get out of you. They don't want to
Yeah.
reproduce in you.
Yeah,
so they're
because
looking
you're not a
around,
rat.
I don't know
looking for-
why they want to go up your spinal
We're what's
fluid
called an
into your
intermediate
brain.
host.
Yeah,
They
I
don't
don't
want
know
to
why.
be in us, but they're in
They're
us and they
ascending.
can live in us, and they crawl around until they eventually just die.
Interesting.
Okay.
So now, when they're in us, they're alive, they're living, they're eating.
Your brain.
It's okay. So,
Yeah.
but that's if they get. That's if they
If
get.
they develop
So they're
in-
starting in your
in-
stomach,
That's
traveling through your
For your
system and your
organs,
blood,
yeah, into your
and it gets to your
central
brain.
nervous
And so
system.
the
So it
brain is
attacks
what
the
it
nervous
is. What it is after. Is that.
I don't know if we can even say that. I don't think that's that important to make that distinction, really.
Right.
It gets to the brain, and that's where it causes the neurological symptoms.
Okay, so but it
Until it
does.
dies.
So now,
Yes,
does it
yeah.
have? The reason that I'm going there is that I was wondering: is there a way of knowing that some have it and it doesn't ever get there, or it doesn't, or is it?
So there's
you know,
different time frames of when they believe that the symptoms come on.
And, and as well, it's either, I guess in conjunction with that, the reason I ask is that I know Chris had an experience where it was the young man that had made it successfully to his brain, apparently, correct? Am I understanding that right? And then I personally have friends who are affected, they say it's rat lungworm, and they are affected by their skin. For
Yes.
example, a dear friend that cannot wear or is very uncomfortable wearing any kind
Super
of clothing.
sensitivity.
His skin is super,
Burning.
it reacts.
But that's
to-
from nerve damage.
Right,
yeah,
right,
it's not,
again.
And
that's
it
not
triggers all
dermatological
over
problem.
Oh,
bodies.
interesting.
There's many other, like,
Okay.
many different spots.
All right.
Some
Well,
people
so I
have
didn't want
severe
I didn't want to just get way
headache.
off that track on that, but I thought that it's kind of important that folks
Good to
understand
know.
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
so the parasite
One of the
enters
symptoms.
us,
Yeah.
and then now this parasite is doing what it's doing, and then. What are the symptoms specifically? What is this? Is there an array? Is there something early that you can go, geez, I should have this checked? Is it is
Yes, when you start experiencing severe nausea, diarrhea initially, leading into just an overwhelming soreness and exhaustion with severe burning and body aching that can pop up in several spots.
Do you know?
And
Let me
in-
ask you a
and
quick question.
And in most cases, severe headaches.
Is
Yeah.
there
But
a particular amount of
Time
time?
frame.
Is there
It's
a
very
time frame
different
from
between each
from getting it
case.
in your body and having it start?
Some say 3 days you can start
Yeah,
seeing.
interesting.
Some say it takes a
And that
week
may
to
be
2
dosage
weeks.
as well. That may
it's
be
very.
a little
That
bit.
was my point.
That
That
has
as
to do
well.
with naturopathic
The
medicine.
parasitic
Yeah.
load.
How fast the symptoms come on, how much they affect
That's
you,
part
how
of your
long,
diagnosis.
has to do with your innate immune system, your body's
Interesting.
ability to fight this.
So that's
critter
gonna be
and
different
slow it down.
for everyone.
And that's something that's not really addressed in Western medicine at all.
No,
so that's
interesting.
maybe a whole different show.
Yeah,
because-
so something that makes
yeah.
it the way you approach, the way
Right.
that you are approaching this.
Well, I have to say though, the one thing though that even Smiley didn't know, who's incredibly educated on this thing, was the innate immune response. It's the one thing we've been dealing with in our clinic. We have clinical and case studies of how people have been affected by this and who have not been affected by this. Even though
Interesting.
Right.
we have people who do eat raw food
Lots of rough.
Sure.
that
Don't
do
get
never
sick.
and don't get sick. And they're
Right.
but
And the reason that Dawn
They
is
eat
saying this,
raw
and
meat.
the reason
Right.
that
What you were
Dawn is
saying
saying this
versus
is
only
that we
vegetables.
had a big conversation prior to going live this evening on 93.5 Aloha Nation Live that about this, and you guys were discussing in depth about the and let's hold off on that, and just if we could just until you're satisfied that folks are aware
we know
enough
what
of symptoms,
symptoms
you know,
are?
and
So,
perhaps,
you know,
and I
so
guess
it's
again,
as I was saying, my
perhaps
my
if you
son
could run through
was
that
living
again.
at his own house at the time. He was busy working at a propane store in Pahoa. So when he started coming home just to say hi to us in the
In
evening
routine, right?
and saying, "Oh gosh, I don't know what's wrong with me. I think I'm just overworked. I'm so tired and
Interesting.
my body aches, and I tried to go get a massage, but I didn't want them to touch me, and I can't sleep, and
my.
I'm just in so
So
much
his skin
pain."
was sensitive that
That the sensitivity starts
So that- so that the
initially you
Low
can
pain tolerance is what we call it.
Very low until you
yes.
touch them and they
Yeah.
hurt. And the
Interesting.
pain can be fixed in one spot, or
Right.
it can actually move around as the
Oh,
worms
no.
move around in your brain.
Oh.
It has
Oh,
different,
touches different
symptoms.
places.
Oh.
It can affect you.
Let's
This is
just
why-
make sure everyone heard that exactly the way that was said.
As the worms move around in your brain, it's true. And that is why it's very confusing as a doctor to diagnose this
I
thing.
bet, dude.
If the
You're
worm
chasing
goes
this.
into this part of the brain, you'll have these symptoms. If
Certainly.
it's moved to this
It's
part, you'll
different.
have these symptoms.
Certainly.
There is not one list of, I know this person has rat lungworm because X, Y,
Sure.
and Z,
Right.
except for pain and fatigue.
Unreal.
Pain and fatigue,
Unbelievable.
everybody has. But one person will have neuropathy.
Paralysis.
One person will have facial paralysis. One person will have
Interesting.
balance
can't
problems.
urinate because your nervous system triggers many functions, and all of a sudden you've lost all of these functions.
Right.
Oh my gosh.
You can't pee because it hit that part of your nervous system.
I mean, the effect that it's had on our community, I know people that were charming and wonderful characters and had life going on great, and they basically are a 2-year-old now. They
Oh,
can't
gosh.
speak.
because it hit
they
the frontal lobe.
Yeah,
they
that's
can't communicate,
extraordinary.
so it really depends on the parasite load.
Where it goes.
And if you kill the worm and deal with the meningitis and the inflammation, which is what I read was the protocol around the world, and I think they're finally coming to grips here, and we've got some really good stuff happening.
So is there a can we come up with kind of like a list of, I know that you've done this, but just so that we can kind of give people something, a list that of an idea. So the skin sensitivity is one,
Pain.
and then pain
Pallor,
meaning just overall.
emaciation,
No.
being in so much pain that you don't want to eat, so much pain that you're vomiting. Okay, so
Headaches,
I
like
think
you have
that
nails being driven
inflammation,
into your
I mean,
head.
the actual inflammation. I just
The
remember.
inflammation is it's an attack on the whole nervous system. So we couldn't. I mean, Phoenix came home for 3 months and couldn't move,
Ah.
and you know, as at that point, protocol not being set up here because we are these guinea pigs in the United States
Sure.
in this tropical land. It was unfortunate that they would not administer an anti-parasitic to him.
Yeah.
And so as I knew that was protocol around the
Yes.
world, I was looking at my son for months,
Yeah.
wondering how long the worms live.
Sure.
They believed 30 days they die. They've had them living for 9 months in petri dishes at the research center
Yes.
in
Do they
Hilo.
reproduce into you though? I mean,
I use
They
antiparasitics
they
right away.
reproduce.
Yeah, it
worms
does, no.
like
Yeah.
reproduce
So-
into your
so it's not-
so they're
it's
in
not-
your
it's
body,
not-
or they have to have the rat to do that. Because I want you know
So
if they
they
die, there's-
just die because they are not in a feasible environment to give it back to the rat.
They don't-
Yes,
it's not-
there's
right,
that.
The circle's
Yeah.
broken.
Yes, the circle is broken.
They kind of ran into
So they
it
don't
sometimes.
multiply, but they develop into inch-long nematodes.
Wow,
I
that's
didn't know that
so-
either.
Yeah,
Well,
right.
did you want to expand on that at all? Is there a way of just saying more about that would help folks understand what that means to the nematode stage of them? They are.
Well, so what it means is precautions from getting it, and specific precautions that need to be addressed is safe water filtration,
That water's big, right?
safe plumbing systems.
Sure, that was
Safe,
that catchment
safe
of what we were talking
filtration systems for people that don't have a water system,
Sure.
that live under a tent. Filtration to
Yeah.
brush their teeth
Certainly.
versus washing their vegetables, while also
You know what I wanted
cooking
to.
your food.
How about if we did, and
Let's
could
start
we,
with cooking.
if we
Let's
could,
address
and
that.
before we go into food, it's the countries that you talked about. Is there? Are you aware of any of those countries being much more aggressive about treating this? Are they identifying it? Are there any?
There's absolutely great research that's been done right now in Australia. There's some incredible researchers
Is
that are working
Australia
on it.
affected?
Australia is affected by it.
Interesting. I would have thought too cold, but
No,
not
they
some.
have it in certain parts. They've had it. They've had cockatoos and parrots in Australia. I'm I know that there are people that this researcher has been working with, and he's learning incredible things. Thailand has a lot of research. There was actually some out of Jamaica, a medical.
No, I would think Jamaica.
A group of medical students went down there and ate infected romaine lettuce. So it comes down to everywhere around the equator,
Yeah,
the
interesting.
cultures
Did you have
cook
that? Did you
their
have-
food
And use spices.
What
and
did what
use
this story
medicine.
say?
And
That actually should lead us right into the innate immune system, because we just got into the spices thing. I think
Okay.
we really need to get into that.
But first,
Yeah.
let's just point out that if you think you have any of these symptoms,
Yes.
get tested right away.
Yeah,
Because
the
the
earlier.
earlier you
Yeah,
treat,
yeah.
Earlier detection.
the safer and the more
Yeah.
brain function you will preserve, and the
Yeah.
better your long-term outcome. Okay,
Wow.
get tested, and
you
and
could
then
really stop
while
a serious.
right, and while you're waiting for
disease.
that test to come back, logical, natural, integrative care can help prevent you from getting sicker.
Mm-hmm.
It can take something that could become very devastating and make it easier to deal
Right,
with.
yeah, right,
So better
understandable.
safe than
Sure,
sorry.
no,
Better
absolutely,
safe
sure.
than sorry. Rational,
So-
reasonable care.
And so, Don, what did you want to bring up?
I think that what we've done now is we've segued directly in to part of what our care is about there. First off is that regardless if you test positive or not right away, I mean, we don't, it's 14 to 21 days, right?
That's
It-
the test. so
That's the
that-
test, could take that long to come back. And so in that case, there is not very expensive, reasonable integrative care things that we can do to mitigate if you do have it, and if you don't have it, it's not going to hurt. Okay, nothing we're going to give you is going to harm you by taking it in order to get rid of something that may not be there. What I'm saying is that we can start the care immediately.
What you're talking about specifically the way that Dr. Sally approaches the health,
Right.
the well-being.
Right. So what I'm saying is even if you have all these symptoms, we've sent out for the test, we should still try to treat you immediately. And none of these treatments are going to harm you. They're integrative, which means that they're partly Western, partly natural. And
Well, why don't you tell everybody where that is? Because we people forget and they jump in on our conversation.
Vitality Natural Medicine Clinic in downtown Pahoa, right across from Napa, 965-2223.
And you have a website.
2233. That's two trees brought.
That's good. Don has to say it that way or he gets the number wrong. I see this happening.
Now we know
And
why.
you have a website that they
Yes, www.docsally.com. That's docsally.com.
Excellent. And so do everybody make sure that you jot that down and get in touch. But go ahead. I just wanted folks to.
So what that segues also into back to the Smiley and the preventative. And Smiley, you guys have a lot more time to talk about the preventative things and whatnot. But I did want Sally to touch, because this is one place that you just found out even about today, is that there is some other ways to mitigate the exposure to rat lungworm.
Reduce the risk.
Reduce the
Reduce
risk.
the risk.
And I'd like Sally to talk about
Okay.
that specifically.
So Smiley is going to cover environmentals and water filters and crucial things like that, and catchment systems. Okay, and then so let's say you've done everything you can to prevent a slug, but oops, you ate one anyway. Okay, because
Just
you
the
live
thought
in the
of
real
that.
Or
world.
half
Just
of one
the
and
thought.
you see the
Or
other
half
half
of
of
one.
Just
one.
a
Spring
just a
roll.
half
Okay.
one.
You bit
Just
into
a half a
something,
slug.
and now you're looking at half a slug, and you already swallowed. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Okay, what do you
Yes.
do? Okay.
Yes,
You-
great.
Right. Okay. So.
I know what immediately I'm going to do, but
Well, that's a little bit, yeah. So, or you're worried. It's been a day or two and you're not concerned. So, if we go back to prevention, what your body is designed to do, we evolved to deal with parasites as a species. We have
Certainly,
dealt with
sure.
parasites our entire process of becoming human.
We're
okay?
covered in
Why
on
are we all
that.
still here? Okay, your immune system is supposed to be able to kill these things.
Sure.
And your digestive system is supposed to be able to digest these things.
Certainly,
Your
yes.
stomach acid is
Process.
supposed to be a pH 2. If I took some out of my stomach and put it on this wooden table, it would eat a hole in the wood.
nice thought.
Okay? Now, that is an ideally healthy person with a healthy stomach acid.
Interesting.
But stress, who's not under stress here? Raise your hand if you're not under stress. Okay, stress. Thank you. Okay, yours is probably holiday. Okay, stress puts you into what's called fight or flight
Yep,
syndrome.
sure.
Everybody knows what fight or flight is.
Good.
And when you're in fight or flight, you are designed to run away from something or kill something that's trying to kill you.
And your
Okay?
body is doing it.
Right. If you are in fight or flight, you're not supposed to eat. We're not evolved to eat while we're running from
Right,
something
yeah,
or
keep
killing
going, yeah.
something. Okay? If you are under continual stress, though, like the IRS is after me, my ex-wife is nagging me.
I'm so sorry
I'm
to hear
driving
that.
a car and I almost got in an accident. Though our modern culture puts us in a condition where we are in fight or flight stress mode for days, hours, weeks, months at a time. You have to eat anyway under those conditions. So those conditions, it's called sympathetic dominance, blah, blah, blah. That condition turns off your stomach acid.
Oh, interesting.
Lowers your stomach acid output. It's hard to make that stuff. That
Sure.
pH2 is hard to make. Your body doesn't want to make it unless you are supposed to be making it. So your stomach acid gets turned off. Okay, you go and eat a salad at a restaurant anyway. Now instead of being pH 2, you're a pH 5 or 6. Guess what loves that pH? Parasites go, yay!
Fascinating.
A nice warm
Fascinating.
bath. Instead of, oh my god, I'm dissolving, I'm melting like,
Sure.
salt in the sun.
Yep, yep,
okay,
absolutely.
so now you have set yourself up for a condition where you are weak and vulnerable to parasites coming in on your food and you don't even know it.
Right.
Okay, so one of the main ways you can prevent this critter is to test your stomach acid, test your digestive enzymes, make sure that you are actually healthy, make sure that you're calm when you're eating, make sure your stress is managed. All those
Boy,
things
how
help.
does one do that? How does one test those types of things?
Well,
Glad you asked.
okay, naturopathic doctors have known about this for forever. We've been dealing with, and we test stomach acid all the time, way before we knew
It
about
just
rat
doesn't sound
lung.
like a great time, you know. I mean,
There used to be a test where you could swallow a string on a capsule, and you would swallow it, it would test your pH in your stomach, and you'd pull it out, and you'd look at the pH
now
on it.
there's a
Now,
great
when I
amount of
explain
fun.
that test, nobody wants to get that test done.
Yeah,
No
no,
one
no.
is signing up
No
for that test.
volunteers. No volunteers.
There's a lab test called the Heidelberg test that puts a little tube in there and checks with the pH. It's a little capsule. No one wants to swallow that pill
No,
either,
it's a
and it's
melon.
not even available in Hawaii, the Heidelberg test.
That's good.
So what we use is something called the Stomach Acid Challenge, where we have a very simple way for our patients to come in and check and see. The test costs $10.
Oh,
You
wonderful.
check and see yourself at home if you are making the correct amount of stomach acid to digest your proteins, digest your fats, and digest your parasites.
So now you can come
Parasites are
in.
made of protein and fat.
Just so everyone
Okay,
can
so-
understand that again, you can come into your clinic.
Right.
Which Don, tell these folks where that clinic is.
Vitality Natural Medicine Clinic in downtown Pahoa, across from Napa, 965-2233.
He got it.
Yeah, thank you, John.
Got it.
And-
www.docsally,
Right.
D-O-C,
So then again, now that's $10 for these folks to come in and
The after
test,
cost, yeah.
and then take their test that they're going to be taking home.
Right. However,
There you
this
go.
test, to do the test, you need some coaching. There are
Uh-huh.
some conditions where you can't take the test. If you have stomach ulcers, for example,
Oh, interesting.
you would not want to take the test right
Yeah.
away. If you have some stomach conditions, you want to heal them first before doing the test. So it's something that needs to be done under some medical guidance. You know, it's a very safe and very simple thing to do. So other naturopaths in the community also probably know how to do this test and can do this test as well. And there may be other doctors too. I don't know them all.
Sure,
So,
yeah,
but it's an easy thing to do, but you need to have it with a little guidance to do
sure,
it.
okay, so they come to your clinic
Right.
and
And test that.
this.
Right.
Now, is that another one of those things where they have to become your
They have to
patient?
become a patient.
Because
Okay.
it needs
Okay.
coaching. But let me
Understood,
just
okay.
say that many people in the community think their stomach acid is normal or even too high,
Sure.
when in fact it's actually suboptimal or too
Well,
low.
my God,
because-
I would suggest to you that the vast majority of the people in the community have no idea and have never in their lives thought about their stomach acids.
Unless they're taking
know?
Prilosec or something, and if you're taking if you're taking a stomach
Something.
acid
Sure,
drug,
certainly.
guess what? You just
Yeah.
turned off all of your stomach acid.
Oh,
So you
interesting.
gave all those parasites a first class
A
ticket
fertile
right into your
ground.
small intestine.
Sure, my
Okay,
gosh.
because there's nothing there to slow them down at all if you're on omeprazole or Prilosec or Nexium or the
Somebody-
little purple pill. Those things are absolutely factors, and in all the cases that we have seen, every single patient that got a serious case of rat lungworm was either on one of those acid stopping drugs,
Interesting.
or was a vegan,
Oh, interesting.
or was
Which
under
is something
a-
that we want to talk about.
and
here.
or was eating a lot of raw food and under a tremendous amount of stress.
Right.
All factors that lower
Sure.
stomach acid.
Interesting.
Okay, why vegans? Because A, they're eating a lot of raw produce. Okay, not all of them. Some of them are cooked food vegans,
Yeah,
but
interesting.
raw food is absolutely a factor. And B, If you are eating a low protein diet, your body naturally will make less stomach acid
Sure,
because it doesn't
it's
need the
requiring
stomach
less.
acid. Your
Sure.
body's very intelligent. It will make what it needs based on
Interesting.
what it's getting.
Which once again makes you more susceptible if you just have a
Right.
lower level, even though
Correct.
it's
So your immune system plays a big part, besides the parasitic load that you do ingest, which is really the bottom line,
yeah. Interesting.
as far as the immunity can push parasites out of your body. And then living in Hawaii, this parasite is a nematode, so noni is an anti-nematodal. So that, as well as hot peppers. This
Interesting.
Which
Yeah.
nematode came from Canton, China originally. As food goes, everything in Cantonese cooking is extremely spicy.
For a
because-
reason. For a
Yeah,
good reason.
interesting.
and
Yes.
what does spicy food do, Sally?
Raises stomach acid.
Yeah,
So-
interesting.
Right.
Yeah.
So
Interesting.
So it's a great. I
Hawaiian
mean,
chili pepper
we should say that
Yeah.
again. So spicy food is
is
known-
excellent to kill
Right,
parasites.
yes.
And let's just talk about raw food versus cooked food, okay?
Sure. Well,
Raw
I mean,
food
yeah,
is
because
not
food is a
good,
huge
number one.
topic
Okay,
of this.
the
Yeah,
raw
we
food
know.
is-
Are we done with what the point though that you were making?
Sure, yeah.
prior to
Not,
Because
not
this is a
quite.
good
I want to.
segue.
I want to
Okay.
say one other point that we have a lot. Like I said, I follow demographs in our clinic, and so one of the things. And Sal, I want to reiterate what Sally said. She said people don't test their stomach acid. We have had in the last year probably 50 to 70% of our patients had less than 20% of the stomach acid that they needed to
Fascinating.
be what we call normal. I made a quotation mark, and we're on the radio, but quote unquote normal. But what they
Right.
don't know is that they are low on stomach. You may never have a symptom of that until you get something like rat lungworm or some other
Or
parasite.
food
Fascinating.
poisoning in a
Food-
restaurant,
food poisoning
something
in a
like that.
restaurant.
Could be
Right.
a first clue.
So
And symptoms of low stomach acid also can feel like
Too
too high
much?
stomach acid
Oh,
because the
interesting.
rotting food in
So
your stomach
indigestion.
irritates your stomach
Oh, fascinating.
and causes burning symptoms, and then you think your stomach acid is too high.
Yeah,
Really,
yeah.
it was too low, and
Wow.
your food's rotting in your tummy.
Wow,
That's
that's
what we're
fascinating.
trying to prevent. Okay.
right.
So that's why we test most people. We test a lot of patients under stress,
Right,
whether they
right.
have stomach symptoms or not. It can be completely silent, but you're still not protected.
Well, and
Okay.
and I would only think that it's all interconnected. So
Right.
if you
Exactly.
can
Right.
at least eliminate that or know that particular
Right.
variable.
That's what we need research on.
Yeah, absolutely.
What
Research
can
on
our
this.
bodies do
Right.
Certainly.
in regards to this disease?
Yeah.
25% of a 500-person blind test study that I helped volunteer with
Yep, that's
to
right,
do with
yep.
the researchers. Apparently, 25%, including myself, were tested positive that we'd actually had some kind of
It's
ingestion
there.
of
Right.
the
There's
parasite.
some
which-
appearance.
That's
Interesting.
there's a lot of research that is
Wow.
absolutely still needing to be done.
Absolutely.
Especially
When in concluding with the stomach the tests that give us so much information, so that now I mean I think that it's very important. You guys were talking about it, and I was just overhearing it as we were preparing for tonight's show here on 93.5 Aloha Nation Live. Where we are talking with Smiley and Dr. Sally, Dawn, Chris. And we're talking about rat lungworm disease. Are we calling it? Is
It's
that
a disease.
it is a
Absolutely.
disease? And but you guys were talking. I could overhear you about food, and I think that it's important that we talk about food. And I know that we'll talk about more
Food
of it.
safety.
Sure,
Food
we'll talk about that
Food
more.
safety in
but,
Hawaii.
But again, now I know that a big part though of your healing process is kind of got a lot to do with getting people on the right diet.
Right.
And diagnosing what's working for them, because
Right.
one person's
Everybody's
product
different,
is everyone's different, and some people spinach is poison.
Well,
all right, maybe not.
there are
but,
some people,
But,
actually.
Yeah.
but the point being is that becomes a very particular thing. You have to read that individual and try to come up with that delicate balance
Right.
of food. But you guys were talking a lot, and I heard, and it's a popular thing here of the vegan approach to life, and food as a vegan source. So I guess if you wanted to expand on that, if we could talk about that.
Yeah, this is possibly the most controversial
Yeah.
thing we do in the clinic.
Right.
We lose a lot of vegan patients because they will not take any animal product for ethics or whatever reason.
Interesting.
God bless them. That's their belief system,
Sure, sure.
and they're entitled to that. we wish they would cook their food if that's the case. And we do have vegan products. We do have stomach acid for vegans that they can take that is completely animal
Animal-free.
product free. All right,
For
that
safety.
if I had a wish for the vegans, I would ask them to eat at least 5% of their diet from some sort of animal product because it does provide several different avenues for them. I don't want to get into the controversy of these diet things because it is a very hot topic, especially where rat lungworm is the highest in Puna.
It takes food and moves it from a nutritional concept to a religious and a political concept.
Bingo.
Which is outside of the scope of
Yes.
this conversation. But there are people for whom veganism is a spiritual path or a political path, and we're not discussing the pros and cons of that, except for to respect that that exists. But from a health point of view, from a purely health point of view, some of the most ill people that come to see me are practicing vegans and have been vegan for a long time. And those people, if they will incorporate some animal products into their treatment plan, are the ones that have rapid recovery and do really, really well. The ones that are determined to stay 100% pure vegan often seem to get more and more ill. So there's a balance in nature to be had, and there's a way to do your food plan and respect the planet and respect our resources and respect animals and still be healthy human beings. That's my belief, and that's what I work for in my practice, is an integrative concept of food and spirituality and environment that respects all sources of food.
And I have to
So-
say also, if you are vegan and you don't want to take any animal product of any kind, and you still want some health things, we will refer you to naturopaths who do vegan type care. Does that person still exist on the island? You give me the no. Did that person move?
I don't know.
Yeah, okay.
I do know that there are certain people on the island that don't eat any vegetables, and they might have their own type of diseases that
Sure.
they have
Absolutely.
to deal with. There's several
Balance.
different diseases from poor nutrition.
Sure, sure.
And what we promote is safe. The best what we're all trying to strive for is how can we eat the most nutritiously without harming ourselves.
Right.
And that's where we're touching on the restaurants, the grocery stores,
Yes.
the farming. I myself am a farmer.
Yep, yep.
I host a fruit stand at Green Mountain, which is the mountain that I've taken care of in Kapoho for 20 years.
Yeah, why don't I tell folks where it's because it's absolutely it's a sacred place. It you have stewarded that land forever, and it's absolutely an experience that people should have. They should come and visit you there, and it's every Friday, right? That you do the
So we
fruit
do our
stand.
fruit market
Yeah.
10 o'clock till 5 o'clock on the Red Road every Friday.
it's Kapoho.
And basically, like, we started that about 5 years ago to take care of the mountain, which is an incredibly beautiful place that we
Sacred.
opened for. It is sacred. And we love our life. I love farming. I'm up in the coconut trees. I'm chopping banana. And we
My boy on your kayak on your lake.
Well, yeah, and actually, why don't you tell them it is Green Lake and tell them why it's what the significance
so
of that
Kalua
is.
Waio Pele is the water of Pele, and this is Green Lake, which is a crater lake at the eastern point of Hawaii
Highway
in
132.
Kapoho
right?
on Highway 137.
137.
Yeah.
The red road.
And we almost got blocked off from a lava flow 3 years ago. I mean, we've, as a community, strengthened, and in that whole process of maybe becoming another Gilligan's Island, we all got together and said, hey, wow, we have a doctor, we have a musician, we have an artist, we have we have to get together and figure out how to survive because we might have to.
An island on an island.
So at that point, I thought, well, let's do a community garden. And we established a beautiful community garden in the aspect that we need to grow our own food because we can't depend on the ships and the exportation and importation.
Right.
So in the process of all of this happening, we had all kinds of greens growing, kales and arugulas and basils and lettuces and lots of diversity, but a lot of lettuces and raw greens. And after about a year of everybody coming together, we planted lots of kalo and sweet potato and pineapple and
Green Lake.
jicama and cassava and very nice.
That's
So
Green
then
Lake.
my community garden group, my son comes home and says he's not feeling good, and this group of community gardeners are all sharing about a man that had just died from rat lungworm that week before. And we talked about him grazing in his gardens and thinking maybe he had had an immunity, and
Sure, all right. Sure.
it brought a huge focus into what we were growing. At the same time, as a food distributor, what am I offering?
Certainly,
And
absolutely.
in the aspect of my son getting diagnosed with rat lungworm, it immediately shifted my understanding. I started learning about it,
Yes.
especially so with the water filtration systems. They said the parasite can't go through the 20 micron sedimentary filters. They were mistaken. It is a
Who is
0.5
it?
micron.
Who is they?
Well, the Department of Agriculture did a water safety
Yeah.
booklet, which at this point,
Well, you know what? Let me interrupt you for a minute, good Chris. There was the information that we had that was from. They were saying it was the official.
Well, I don't know if it was official, but what I found, it seemed to be across the board that it's 15.
15
Microns.
microns, right? And that was
But-
what was suggested. But I mean, that
was that in
information-
that blue book?
I got it off of a site, and if I had
Because the
more
site
organized-
is wrong.
Oh.
And it's
Interesting.
misinformation
What-
from
what-
2000 and maybe 5 that they
Right.
did this booklet. So
Wow.
the researchers have discovered 0.5 micron is what you
Well,
need.
and once again, just to be good, what we opened this show here at 93.5 Aloha Nation Live, what we opened this show with was my surprise that this was known about for so long. And then almost, and for you to just say...
It's been here for so long,
Yeah,
but
exactly,
our
that as
knowing
well.
was very...
Well, but 2005.
yeah.
Here we are, 2017.
And we were drinking
And
our...
and we're still
catchments
talking
and
about it as if
grazing.
it's all myth
Yeah.
information. I
Well,
like to
so
call
what
it.
it's done
like
for
myth.
me is it hit home. It hit home for me enough to deeply be concerned.
Well,
Oh my gosh,
absolutely.
is this what my community's been going through? I had no idea.
Certainly.
And this is dot to dot. I counted maybe 35 people from infants to
Certainly.
elders
Well,
that
we,
had
we know a lot
contracted
of
this
this. We know the
disease.
same people.
we
That
do.
we know folks that, like one in particular, that cannot wear clothing.
Yes.
Yeah. Upper clothing.
Many of them can't
wear
have things
clothing, and
touch
this
them
is
or
a-
be in the sun.
and so
They
this
have
is-
hypersensitivity
And
from
so
the damage.
this is something that these folks are living with, and experiencing as something. I mean, thank goodness that's
Yes.
Phoenix has gotten to what appears to be terrific
Recovered.
recovery.
Yeah.
Phenomenal.
And I have to say, the amount of work that Smiley did to make that happen. I've seen part of her
Extraordinary.
treatment plan. I've seen part of the things that she did. She incorporated natural things. She did all kinds of herbal anti-inflammatories.
We tried to learn about as much
the
as
level
we could.
of care was phenomenal, and that's what it takes
Sure,
to
certainly.
recover from a serious brain injury, which is what this is. This is a closed
Yeah, and I
head,
thank you for saying
serious
that. I
brain
think that's
injury,
it's great
and it
that
needs to be
that's
treated.
addressed like that.
If your kid gets hit by a car and
Certainly.
their skull fly open, there's a brain injury.
Yeah,
This is
absolutely.
closed. You cannot
Sure.
see it from the outside. These people are suffering tremendous pain, tremendous disability, and it's invisible from the outside.
So on a larger scope, I have tourists from around the world that come to my little Friday fruit market,
Certainly. Yeah.
and they know absolutely nothing
Right,
about rat
which is an
lungworm.
interesting.
So
and
I,
that's,
as
that,
an
that's
educator,
that's an
and
interesting issue. yeah.
demanding to make this
Certainly.
and something that's known in our community, I am so happy to share with them the precautions and the priority as the lava flow was making us self-sustainable. We started
Yes.
realizing, wow, taro really grows here. In fact, for a few thousand years, taro has grown
Yes,
here, and so has ulu. And we have to cook these foods, and the tourists need to be eating these type of cooked foods in all of the restaurants. It's basically mandatory as a shift in our
Food
in our
consciousness.
tourist industry that we do not invite these people here and get them sick by giving them
Sure.
the wrong food.
Amen.
So
Right.
It's unethical.
I don't disagree with any of that. I
I'm
think-
recommending
right,
lists,
right.
so as well
But
as
I
the
mean,
Board
it
of
also- but
Education
it's
bringing
also
local
important,
food
I
into
think,
the
though,
school system.
It's important. It's important to also state, though, here with this part of this discussion, that Hawaii, in particular, like so many places that are affected by this, are because of where they are warm places. They are vacation destinations, and I think that there is a reality, an economic reality that we could just as easily.
Lose them.
Well, we could end up not having folks come, and I think that I would rather see
It's
us.
a shame.
I would
So
rather
we
see
need
us
to
come to a
immediately
balance
address
here.
that with our.
Then we don't want to scare,
Right.
folks. I don't disagree with you
Yeah.
that information is power, and like you
Right.
said, Dr. Sally, and I think that that's vitally important. But we need to make sure that we don't paint, doom and gloom. Although this is extraordinarily serious, we do not want to belittle it at all. That's why we're having this discussion here on 93.5 Aloha Nation Live, and we're at a place, Dr. Sally, that you had mentioned that you might need to leave in order to take care of folks. But so I do. Did you want to sum anything up? Because
Actually, I think Sally's telling me that this is such an important discussion that she's going to stay up late tonight, even though we have to get up early.
That. Thank
early
you so
with
much.
the,
We appreciate
patients.
that. It's important to our community. It's
Right.
hugely important to our community.
And I'm learning things too. I
Yeah,
would
no,
say
thank you.
the
I
things that
appreciate
Smiley's saying, the idea of what's safe for tourists to have, what kind of
Sure.
food, how can we
Yeah.
protect our
Yeah.
families, the Ohana,
Absolutely.
and the tourists. There are ways
Sure.
to do this with our food culture
Yes.
that can incorporate
Right.
this
And
knowledge
that's why I
without
wanted
scaring
to,
people.
I wanted to
That's
bring up
brilliant.
one thing that Chris said. That Chris, you had. I remember you discovered that initially the state of Hawaii had when they, I guess, they admitted, if you will, or at least acknowledged that rat lungworm was here and was an issue. That initially the contact was to the farmers. Is that correct? It was through.
Yeah, there was a forum with a question and answers that I read. It was from 2011, and when they went out to
So
inform
again,
the public,
let's just say that again, and then I want you to go on, but just to say again, 2011, we're 2017 now. So in 2011,
they informed the farmers of.
did they, being the state of New Hampshire,
It was a bunch of. It must have
What?
been the.
New Hampshire, yes, yeah, where am I from? The state of Hawaii, thank you very
It
much.
was probably the Department of Health. I
Yeah.
didn't.
2011, there was a rat
It was-
longworm conference
Yeah.
I see.
in Honolulu,
I see.
and it brought rat
hosted by-
longworm researchers from
But,
around the world.
so I mean, but was it
So-
the Department of Agriculture? Was it Department of Health?
I'm
was
not
the state?
sure
was the
who
state
held
the
the
host?
conference.
Oh, okay.
It was the university,
It
the one
could
that
have
I
been the
read.
University of Manoa, right?
Okay, so UH.
I thought
Well,
it was,
so the University of Hilo researchers went to this because a student of the researchers, her son got disabled from rat lungworm, and this researcher, Susan Jarvie,
Well, no, actually,
said, "What's going on in this
if we
community?"
could, let me interrupt you just for 1 sec because HPR
Yeah.
today,
Yeah.
that
Susan.
had Susan,
Yeah.
and she is. Why don't you just tell folks who she is? She is.
So she's the head of research in the Daniel Kainui Pharmaceutical School of Medicine.
here at UH.
It's the School of Pharmacy,
Uh-huh.
and
Are
it's
they-
at the university. And
Yeah.
starting from about 2011,
And her name
is
again?
Susan Jarvie,
Jarvie. Okay, thanks.
and she is who I immediately was fortunate enough to meet. Immediately when I discovered Phoenix had rat lungworm, I got a hold of Kay Howe, whose son had it, and got disabled, very seriously sick from it. Susan Jarvie is who I brought my water. My son siphoned water. That's how he got sick.
Oh, interesting.
He
So you know
siphoned
that.
water out of a tank, and it was it was because his water pump had gone out, and he was trying to get a siphon.
Certainly.
So
Well, we're all guilty of this.
specific things that we take for granted.
Absolutely,
Like
every day.
siphoning water out of
Certainly.
a tank, where he swallowed water, and that's how he got
Ingested.
some of the parasite. So we brought our water and met Susan Jarvie, started learning about the research that they were doing in regards to the nematode and the disease, and I was crying out for
with all.
community understanding,
Certainly.
and I realized that our community was in serious danger from the aspect of this kind of being brushed under the rug
Interesting.
for so long.
The-
So
by you feel brushed under the rug by just not being identified. The medical community at the hospitals did not, or to respond, didn't want to.
pretty much being
weren't-
treated as an orphan disease.
by
And not getting
by,
the
by the
attention.
Department of
Let
Health.
me
Right.
explain from my
I don't think it's serious.
Yeah,
so
well, I
they-
have to explain from my experience in hospital time. When you talk about orphan disease, in any situation, medical community, you have a limited amount of resources.
Certainly.
An orphan disease, by definition, affects such a small part of the population compared to with all of the
1,000.
over 100,000.
100,000.
So
Yes.
right. So what happens then is that, like, geez, do we spend $10 million on one person out of 100,000, or do we spend the other 20,000 people who are losing their teeth because they're not eating basic
Right.
food, right?
Sure, that's a good
So
point.
it's a total numbers resource game, and what's happened now is it's no longer an orphan disease.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's
And
right.
one other thing I've been wanting to make this point, and we had so much great information, but one thing troubling that I've heard in the community, again, being the guy at the front desk, is the idea that you can become immune to
Right.
this nematode.
Oh, thank you for bringing that
Okay.
up, Don. It's a
This
great,
is
important
a
information.
classic part of misinformation that happens with any illness that sweeps into a community. There's certain things that you can never get immune to. One of them is a rat lungworm. Any toxin that is in your body, you can never develop an immunity to a toxin. You can develop an immunity to perhaps a disease. Dr. Sally can give me the face on that.
The nematode could still get into your body. You have a stress moment. You have low stomach acid. You eat a whole slug.
Sure.
It's about parasite load coming in versus your ability to kill that amount of parasites in that amount of time before it goes further down into your gut. It goes right through that wall.
Oof.
Okay, so just because someone's had it before doesn't mean that they can't get infected again.
Oh, fascinating. Great
Very
point.
important.
Great
And-
information.
And
Thank
touching
you.
base on food safety, as a farmer, I started to really think about the different fruit that I was offering people.
Certainly, yeah.
And
Well, your
that
own concern.
everything came into my mind as far as the mango groves that our community drives down every day.
So all of it
Stepping
becomes
outside,
suspect.
and
Everything is suspect.
You don't pick up a mango off of the ground anymore and just eat it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that our community is really starting to understand.
You know what, Janet, let me ask you this, because it's an interesting thing, a thought that just crossed my mind when you said that. Because what does that mean? One of the things that you've all heard me keep harping on is how long we've known about this.
Yeah.
And yet, almost as a statement that we would make and nothing mattered, and we would say it so easily, is you don't pick a mango off the ground anymore. So
Right.
exactly when was it that we could pick a mango off the ground? You know, I mean, when,
I honestly
you know what I mean. In
wouldn't-
reality, we're seeing that this
right
is
before
30s.
Phoenix
you know?
got sick. I
Right.
mean, honestly, up until that point, I had such a lack of awareness
Sure.
of really what we
Right,
were
right.
dealing with.
Right.
And so when he got sick,
Right.
everything came into play. I wanted my community gardeners
Mm-hmm.
to learn how to make lau lau because we will cook that for a good 6 hours in an
Interesting.
underground oven or in
Yeah.
a steamer.
Sure,
And
sure.
it grows here, it's local, it's healthy, and you're not going to get rat lungworm from eating lau lau as long as you don't debone the tea leaf with your
Fascinating.
mouth.
No.
So there is
So
everything
That's a
is
great
about
suggestion all by
diligence.
itself. You know.
Everything is about diligence.
Yeah.
Learning to be extremely careful with what we
Absolutely.
do with our hands.
Absolutely.
And
You know, before we go through
Touch
the
our mouth.
processes and maybe, and because we should talk much more about the food, but you know, were you complete with the immunity of the idea of that?
I
Let
want
me
to
just also talk about the fact that this parasite is spreading in the mollusk community, okay, in the slugs and
OPE?
snail.
Is it
Okay,
the OPE?
no.
Okay,
so,
but
so
that's what I read.
here's an abstract from a study showing that now they found it in 7 native and 30 non-native gastropods. There's over 16 species in Hawaii alone. Okay,
No,
that
tell,
is-
tell folks
that
what
is
these things
new.
are, because they won't know. They're
Gastropod. Gastropod is a slug, a
Yeah.
snail, a
Lovely
slimy,
name
a
for
slimy,
a
slimy. Okay,
A
so
mollusk.
this infection has come to the island,
Mm-hmm.
like we have come to the island. Okay, global warming, I'm sure, has a part in this.
Certainly.
Our climate is changing. These things are now here. Didn't used to be here, and they found a fertile
Whether
field.
it was rats
Certainly.
or slugs
Okay,
that brought
to
it,
grow.
they're both here.
There are slugs and things coming in on shipments from Walmart, shipments from wherever.
Right, absolutely.
Okay, and these infections are spreading in that community on that level as well. So this threat is probably growing. So our awareness and our food culture needs to change to reflect the growing threat.
Yeah,
So
I
one thing
agree.
I'm really asking for our community to do, because I see that Hana was just amazing how they came together with this kind of new thing in their community, and
Hana-
they were
the
able
Hana being-
Hana Maui,
Hana Maui.
and
You just have,
there's-
we have
it's
folks
reached
that are listening.
Maui.
We
You
have
know,
folks that are
it's
listening
reached-
to our show that
it's
are off
reached
of
the
Hawaii.
west side of Maui, as well as Maui tourists coming to the Big Island
Sure.
and bringing it back. They've finally got this slug here there,
Oh.
and so controlling the invasive species, meaning basically being vigilant with
Well, you know,
keeping
that-
up on
could-
rat traps,
Can
killing
I ask?
rats.
I want to ask you that is this unique to the Big Island and not affecting any of the other islands?
So some of these species that carry the parasite, it's compared to the semi-slug, they do have percentage as a study went, how many African snails are going to have actually carry the parasite, whereas the amount of parasite load in the semi-slugs is consistent. You're almost 100% going to get them, and they've tested that almost 100% of the time the rats are going to be infected.
Yep. Well, that was
So-
the same information Chris
So
had
a lot
discovered,
of
he
these
said.
mollusks and prawns and different carriers, indigenous snails, aren't necessarily going to have the parasite. If you know, you can take it into the researchers at the UH, and they can test if you've by chance ingested any of it. And
Do we
they,
know,
they can
Don,
help find that out.
Do you
That's
know,
good
Don,
thing to
was
know.
is there a
Interesting.
number?
Why does
Is there a number of
Yeah.
diagnosed cases, a number of suspected?
That is the
If
hardest
you can
number.
determine that you've eaten a slug.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
That is the hardest information you can possibly try to get from the CDC or the state of Hawaii, right there. And in fact,
And trying to
my
come
own-
up with a number, how many diagnosed cases there are, how many people there are, and that's what Don
So
is-
since about 2005, what they've been doing is diagnosing it and as eosinophil meningitis. So that has ruled out the diagnosis as Angiostrongylus cantonensis, which is rat lungworm disease. So a lot of these patients that have had rat lungworm disease, when you look in the books and the
Misdiagnosed.
records, it'll show, oh, this patient had meningitis. So that was not helpful as far as learning
Statistics, right.
about rat lungworm
That's
disease.
not a misdiagnosis.
It's
meningitis
true.
means
It's one
It's part of
brain
the
is part of
symptom.
rat
Oh,
lungworm.
I understood,
It means
okay.
your
But this
brain's
parasite
inflamed.
was not included in the
Understood.
diagnosis.
Correct. So
That's
it's slippery. They're
Yeah,
not
yeah,
lying,
interesting. Right,
but they're not telling the whole truth.
It's a little vague, it's not specifically saying.
let me tell you a little layman's terms on everything as far as medical terminology goes. When it says itis, that means swelling.
Oh,
That's
interesting.
it.
Great.
Meninge
That's great
means a
information.
swelling of that. Okay, so that means what you just told you. Yeah, your brain is swollen. We don't know how.
Or why?
Right,
Or why.
Interesting.
So
Because I
that-
think you had mentioned earlier that is part of, you have to have that in order for them to move forward with a further
Treatment
tests, with a treatment plan.
In
You have to-
insurance
you have to
land,
have the
yes, in
meningitis.
insurance land, they have to check the right
diagnosis.
box
Yes, a
for the
diagnosis
right
of meningitis.
diagnosis, to get the right drug, to get the right testing. That is the weakness of our Western system. Is sometimes box checking becomes much more important than the doctor's opinion
Right.
or clinical experience.
That'd be interesting.
Yes. So, unfortunately for our fantastic doctors on this island who are frequently overworked, underpaid, and have to leave because they get tired of that very
Right, right.
problem.
Paradise isn't so
Well,
welcoming.
we
to
have a
the-
hard problem with keeping
We do
retaining
indeed.
doctors on the
We
Big
do
Island.
indeed.
It's
Yeah,
on
we
the
do.
front page of the paper.
It is. Yeah.
And so I don't want to denigrate them in any way, shape, or form for the job that the overwhelming job
Very
they have
difficult.
to do.
Yep.
Right, but their job says they have to check a box in order to get a diagnosis code in order to have the insurance pay for it. So what the only the other avenue that we're giving you here is if you've got $159.50 and you
Or
can
$82.
or $85, which lab it picks, right? And I'm still researching the second lab on that second person to see
wonderful.
which test it is. But that being said, is that we can at least give you the code so that overworked doctor that you go to, if you don't want to go to Dr. Sally, you can get that code, take it to your doctor, and get that test and rule it out. Also, if you want to become a patient of ours, we can go ahead and start you on treatment, even if we don't have a solid diagnosis.
Some of the treatments.
Some of the
That's
treatments.
interesting.
Yes.
If there's enough of the symptom that is
If we
indicating.
suspect.
It's a diagnosis of clinical suspicion. It's
Oh,
enough to
interesting.
do
Yeah.
conservative therapies.
Yeah.
Yep,
That
interesting.
do no harm. Remember that arrow just to do no harm.
Yes, yes.
Main oath, do no harm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so but I think we really need to talk about how people don't get this thing.
Sure, that
I
would be
would
great.
really like for
So
someone
this
to
is
talk
a
to
really
us
more
about
preventative.
how to not get this thing.
Sure.
Right,
Yeah.
because I know all about what to do once you get this thing.
Sure.
And I want fewer people to get this thing.
Yeah.
So let's find out how to do that.
How do we not have this community
Yeah,
get
absolutely.
this
The
thing?
first thing I would
Good,
like
you
to
know,
talk
Nick,
about.
can I just say one thing? I would like to, if we could have an idea, if anyone here has the information, of what is the state officially saying, what do they recommend? What is the
So
state?
it's a shift
What's
right
the
now.
state's,
It's a
take
shift.
on
The
this?
Department of
Before
Health
we actually tell people what to do.
was allocated the legislative money.
Yes.
It was asked of from the university. So
This is
at
recent.
this
This
point
is
right
recent
now,
legislation that did not go through, right? Is that you're
it
talking
didn't
about?
go through to the researchers of the university, and it was given to the Department of Health to allocate. In
How
this
they
case,
chose.
I believe that there is.
Do you
knock
think
on
that
wood,
there's enough of a
going to be
public
funding
outcry?
to the researchers that are really the top researchers in regards to
So,
rat lungworm.
so just before we move on, then what you're saying is that money was allocated not specifically for rat lungworm, but
For
it
rat
was
lungworm.
it has been allocated,
Yes.
and it's in
Specifically
the hands,
for rat
okay, good,
lungworm.
and it's in the hands
Yeah.
of the Department
So
of
it's
Health.
great. So
It's
this
in,
is
but just
yes.
it's in the hands of the
Yeah.
now they. Are
Have to
now,
determine-
can we, as a public, the folks listening to us tonight, can here on 93.5 Aloha Nation Live, can we? Is there contact
I
people?
called them
Is there-
today.
is
I
there
called the
somebody that we
Department of
should,
Health
you know-
today because I really want to help them and
Yeah.
and help educate people and give them as much of my ideas for safety for our tourists and for our community. So I'm feeling that yeah, I want to do a benefit that will.
But as a listening public, is there? Do you feel that we can, as a public, people, numbers, and we're going to try to get the telephone number, the contact number, that for everyone listening to us here at 93.5 Aloha Nation Live. But we, did you feel that ground swell again? That people in the community getting on the phone, becoming a little proactive, and calling. Is it necessary to call them in order to have them
Well, that
fund
I
this?
particularly I have research ideas that I want to do in
Oh,
regards
wonderful.
to safe food and.
But I mean that's separate from but specifically what we're talking about now is
And
the
I want,
legislation.
I really want the Department of Health to allocate proper education for big box stores
Sure,
to
sure.
sell appropriate water filtration.
Yeah, great.
And I think the Department of Health can help us with
Yeah,
that.
no, I
think
agree with
it's
you.
key also to pinpoint what restaurants are safe and what restaurants
Interesting.
can you go to that can potentially harm you.
Sure. Now, obviously, restaurants are
what
not going to. The
restaurants-
restaurant industry itself is
It's
going
changing.
to push back,
It's
but they're going to
immediately
push back
making a
on
change
that. Is there?
with it being nationally
Sure.
out there now.
Understood.
It's made national
Understood.
news.
But then, in all fairness, do you feel that there is I know it's something that we wanted to talk about with preventative, and maybe this is a great way to segue into that, because is there an absolute way that you would recommend, or that we know, that a restaurant or a grocery store or ourselves in our homes can preventively wash our vegetables, wash the things? Is there a solution? Is
Yes.
there's
So,
so I mean, because
the owner of
obviously,
the Hawaii catchment company who does sell a safe water filter.
right, so before we
she
get
was-
to actually washing
she
it,
was from
we're talking about the
Thailand,
water. Make the
and
water better.
So she was from Thailand, and as I learned about safe water filtration and water catchments, she said, Smiley, I don't understand all of these people that come here and eat these giant bowls of raw food.
Fascinating.
She said, in Thailand, we steam everything.
Oh, interesting.
So that immediately made my perception change
Uh-huh.
to in Thailand they just don't offer salad. It's
Interesting.
not a part of their
Okay,
diet.
it's not the way they do it.
Also, not to my understanding, and I'm not Hawaiian. Okay, my understanding is that if I'm looking at foods that Hawaiian people traditionally ate, there were not a lot of raw leafy greens in that
No, good
diet,
point.
were
That's
they?
a
So
very good
that's
point.
the
We're talking
shift.
poi, that's
Yeah.
a cooked food.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fish from the ocean, raw
Absolutely.
or cooked. That's
Ulu,
not
sweet
Yeah.
potato,
right. Sweet potato.
Lala.
Those things were cooked.
tapioca.
Okay, and those people were incredibly healthy.
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
Incredibly
fascinating.
healthy.
Great point.
So
It's a great
I
point.
believe we need to talk right now about raw food.
Yep,
And
good.
the myth in Puna, the cultural myth that raw food is somehow inherently healthier
Certainly.
than cooked food.
Well, I think that is extraordinarily
It's a
important.
myth.
At
As
this
a
point
marketing-
in Puna, it is Russian roulette.
Yes.
In
Right.
California, up in the redwoods, you're not dealing with a parasite, and that's the appropriate
Correct.
region
you're going to do
to
it.
eat
Yeah.
raw food.
Yeah,
You
Great
have to be
point. Great
regionally
point.
sensitive and culturally sensitive about your food culture where you are. You, when in Rome, do what the Romans
Yeah,
do.
absolutely.
What did people do here safely 1,000 years
Right.
ago?
Yeah.
Maybe we should be listening to them.
Yeah, great point.
Not to mention, tourists need to be eating the food that's been grown
Sure.
here for 1,000 years.
Sure.
If the ship hits the fan,
Yeah.
we'll be eating.
Yeah.
And so it's a food sustainability issue on top of a food safety issue.
Yeah, great point.
I also have to make a point as a guy who does marketing for a living, is that something you touched on, there's going to be pushback from the restaurant. There doesn't need to be that. In fact, it's quite the opposite.
It could be embraced, right?
Savvy marketer will always say, oh, let's take a look at this. By the way, we're slug free.
Yes.
Right, great, no, that's a good,
Yes.
that's a good
Safe
great-
place to eat.
Exactly.
There's
But
also a
which
difference.
puts us back, and I hope we'll talk about it in a minute. Let me just interrupt to say that I mean it's a great point of as long as we then have some criteria to put to them, then that they can say we're slug free because we do this.
Bingo.
You know,
Right.
Right.
And that's an easy thing to do. People do that all over the world. People do that in all kinds of things. Organic became a big thing. Organic certification, it got to be really complicated in the
Yeah.
amount of things because our criteria was very well set.
How about a slug-free certification?
A slug-free certification.
There's also a difference between vegetables and fruits. Okay,
Certainly.
fruits come in a casing that the tree or the plant grew.
Provided,
Inside
yeah.
of that casing, as far as we know, is slug-free.
Yeah.
You peel a banana, that banana
So I
is
farm
slug-free.
banana. I
Right.
wash the banana. We have, it's got an incredible safe skin. It's an incredible food. It
Right.
grows
Super
here.
food, sure.
It grows here. We eat it here. Certain fruits that potentially were introduced, as well as some indigenous ones at this point with this parasite. I question mountain apples unless you cook it and turn it into applesauce.
Okay.
Interesting.
There is
Oh,
no
I didn't
skin, so it's very scary. I don't eat mountain apples anymore.
well, plus you're
Fruit,
consuming the
fruit.
skin.
I
of the
won't
apple.
sell mountain apples
Okay.
because we have not been we haven't been funded. The researchers here have not had the means to do vegetable studies, and
Okay.
and I think that's our next step
Right.
is really determining the safety, because the health department said, well, now you need to really flip your piece of lettuce and wash it really good. And
We're
I
talking
said,
about
have you
individual
ever
pieces of
grabbed
lettuce.
a semi-slug?
Sure.
I can't even get that stuff.
Right.
If you by
Throw it away.
by
If you have
accident
any
grab
suspicion.
one,
Right.
the
Good stuff.
slime just
It's extraordinary.
barely.
You need
it's
steel
so
wool
hard
to
to
get the
cut
hot
off.
off.
Exactly.
Yeah, extraordinary.
So that's where
Yeah.
cooking your food comes into play, and that's what everywhere around the equator,
Yeah.
every culture that
Interesting.
is from the equator,
Interesting.
you're not going to
Every
find
indigenous
raw
culture.
food.
Yeah.
Right.
It's
But you
a-
do find raw fruit that has
Yes.
a thick skin
Yes.
that is removable.
banana.
orange,
Absolutely.
a banana, potentially a mango, but you
Yeah.
still need to wash the skin of that fruit
Certainly.
before you
Break
break
it.
into it.
Yeah.
If a slug went across that mango and you just broke it open, guess what? You just pushed the slime into
Sure.
the mango and now you're eating it.
Yep,
And
yep.
so then you look
Fascinating.
at something like pesto. We love pesto. You know, we're integrated as a culture here, dynamics
Totally.
from all over the world.
Yes.
We're eating all of these foods together. There is a huge list of incredibly delicious safe food on this island that we can really promote to restaurateurs. Yeah, it's
Safe food now, so you mean safe
so
food?
what I was going to touch with pesto
Yeah.
is basil grows incredibly here.
Yeah.
It does.
And it's so good for your immune system,
sure.
and it's
Now,
such
what
such a good
prevents
blood
what
cleanser.
prevents the
So
snails
if
from
you
getting on basil?
if you take your basil
Yeah.
and it does at this point you can rinse it off.
Yeah.
You don't have to scrub it with Brillo pads. What you do is you make this incredible pesto and you
Cooking it
freeze
then.
it for 2 days.
Right.
So
Thank you,
you're doing
Smiley.
both here. You're
So
cooking
you have
it and
this
freezing
beautiful
No, not really cooking.
pesto from your
Oh,
garden. You freeze it for 2 days.
Yeah.
You pull it out,
Yeah.
and you're gonna have awesome pesto.
Now,
So-
one of the reasons you're mentioning this is because we're running with the information that a freezing of the parasite for 48 hours, I think
Yes.
you said, is a
Kills
killer.
it.
That kills it.
Yeah.
And that's definitive. We know that to be
Yes.
true.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's
Anything
great.
below freezing, well, isn't
Yes.
a certain temperature, just enough for it to be frozen solid.
Frozen
So, yeah,
for
it's
2
good
days.
enough.
So, you know,
meaning
so-
not
so that
hanging
we
out in a
don't- and
cooler
Dawn-
for 2 days.
Dawn
I mean,
had,
there's-
Dawn had mentioned this, and I think it's important because, indeed, as you guys had said, that about the culture of where we live, and certainly in other places around the world, that the whole vegan movement, vegetarian movement, all of those things. I think it's important that we don't say, you guys, you can't do it.
Yeah, it's not about
So,
diet.
so I think that,
much.
but
I mean,
what we
I
would
should just
probably,
go with
what we probably,
I think it is somewhat about that.
Well, diet's
it-
important, but with the
I think it's gonna, well, we just so that we can clarify for our immediate listening folks, the vegans have, they're not gonna cook their food. So they're not going
And
to
move to a
raw
cold place.
people.
Move to a
If you're
cold
wanting to
place.
be
Yeah,
vegan
there's a
and you're
lot.
not going to cook
so
your
it's
food,
Russian
please move.
roulette.
Yeah,
It's
interesting.
You are
Russian
risking
roulette.
your life.
You are
That's-
you are
absolutely.
So I mean, I think that it's important that
know the options.
truly how severe
It's severe.
this is.
And
Yes.
I mean,
worse.
so
That's
that we're
right.
not overplaying
That's
it.
right.
No.
We're not over emphasizing
It's not a
it.
joke.
This is good. This is very
It's a
very
life-changing illness.
dangerous. And it certainly
Let
it
me
certainly
put it
got a
to you,
lot
I'm from
to you.
Alaska originally, and I have to tell you, there's never been a rat lungworm case in Alaska.
Interesting.
Right.
That's a great
Okay,
point.
and you can eat all the raw vegetables you want there, and you will
Yes.
never get rat lungworm. However, you may get frostbite on your toes. But outside of
By
that,
bear.
well, when you go to Alaska, you get off the road, you're part of the food chain.
Yeah.
That's one of the reasons why I moved
But
here.
very much to your point, an earlier
Hawaii
point,
is
I think
beautiful.
where you had brought up that a lot of this particular illness has to do with the quantity that you digest. So I think what you're pointing out probably most emphatically is that raw vegetables and that type of thing, your probability of having the highest quantity
Yes.
of the parasite to ingest
Right.
is in that environment.
Yes.
Is in the
What
raw
we're saying is
environment.
Absolutely.
the potential benefit
Yeah.
of raw vegetables will be completely mitigated by the
Great
fact
point.
that you're in a coma
Great point.
in a hospital
Yeah.
in Honolulu. It is
And
not
that
Great
were a
point.
question.
When
and
they're going
that
to be giving you
question
animal
of-
products in your veins straight up.
Oh, thank you, Don.
And so this is
I'm
where,
sure
where
they'll-
we have where
Well,
we
we'll
have
have a lot of great comments for that. That's good. That's very funny.
So what I want to touch on is there's a lot of information that people are sharing
Certainly.
that is misinformation.
Yeah.
Like, oh, I just soak my raw stuff in vinegar.
Yep, yep.
Vinegar does not kill this nematode.
Which is important. I think you should repeat that
Bleach,
because
bleach
that's
is
something
not a
that's been said.
vegetable wash by
Interesting.
any standard.
Right.
So we
So bleach
definitely,
also. Now,
bleach
is it
does
because
kill
bleach
the
is-
parasite,
it does.
and they do recommend putting some bleach in a water tank because it kills more than the
Certainly. Yeah.
the
Yeah.
rat lungworm.
You're
There's
talking
a
about
lot of
capturing
bacteria.
things. Good.
But the food wash, and where the food is grown, whether it's in a garden
Sure.
or in a greenhouse.
Yep.
What I'm saying is hydroponic grown raw food, you still
You're as
potentially could get sick from it because these slugs are everywhere.
Certainly.
And we are trying to eradicate them. I just got 10 Muscovy ducks down at Green Mountain because
Right.
ducks eat slugs.
Yep.
That's the only research I found as far as invasive species control was a Chinese farm that brought lots and lots of ducks to experiment, and they do not get this parasite.
Interesting.
And they eat slugs, so that's I'm testing
So,
some
yeah.
ducks out.
So I'm just again to reiterate, so that in case folks missed it. So what? Because it's sort of myth information. I was saying
Yeah.
to Dr. Sally is how I think of things is myth information. They're myths that
Yes.
people instead of misinformation.
Yes.
So
Myth
it's
information.
so it's myth information that's happening here, and so what you're saying, so everybody knows this to be true, that the vinegar. That I think people were told that was one of the remedies, I believe. So that is not the case. That is not going to kill this parasite. So no
Absolutely
longer.
not.
No
Absolutely
longer.
not.
And bleach has
So
its corrosive
we know
side.
we know that salt does kill this nematode.
Interesting. So salt.
So this is a important factor when they like to come out at night. So you get one big jar with a lid and a handle, and you get some tongs and you put some gloves on, and you can go out and you can safely tong these slugs and put it in a slug jug,
Yeah.
which has a 1/3 salt, 2/3 water, and you get them out of the environment so
Good.
that the rats don't have a
Interesting.
chance
Stop,
of
break-
eating the
break the
slug.
circle.
Even when they die,
Yep.
it still sheds the parasite.
Interesting.
So eradicating them is it's about
Sure.
controlling
Breaking
the
the
invasive
circle.
species, and we're working on it
Yeah.
because
Can I say
it's
one
not
thing
easy.
here? Is that we are concentrating on our farmers and our farmers markets and things. I have to say another part of the demographics is that you're just as likely to get it from Costco or Safeway or KTA produce as you are from
Just about every supermarket I have found out that people have found the slugs in the local produce.
Well,
even
wait,
imported
let's
produce.
define that. Let's
Even-
define
even-
local as versus. Now, Costco is obviously not necessarily
It's
local.
not.
But
We have found them in lettuce
Oh.
in Costco.
Now,
Imported
let me
on
just.
March.
Imported
Right, so
on-
that's
Yes.
I mean that means that where is it coming from though? I mean
Well, it's grown in hot tropical
Also-
areas.
also
It's grown
one
in
other
thing-
Mexico. It's grown in
Yeah,
They
okay.
sit on it.
California.
Wait a minute, but they also one other thing too is they sit out at night. Sometimes these things and the slugs crawl across them just like they do anywhere else.
Oh, well,
At least 2 or 3 cases have come from supermarkets with food that come from out somewhere else that sat out somewhere in Hawaii or wherever and had a slug go across.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah, so
how
again, and I think this is
many
important,
people are
Smiley.
affected by actual
Yeah,
restaurant
right,
cases and supermarket
right.
cases.
So I think it's important that again we don't start mass
But
panic.
no, it's
so
not
so
a
with
panic,
supermarkets.
but it's a truth.
So
This
with
is true.
supermarkets, tell us about what
You know, that's where I don't feel like I should talk about any names of any
Well,
restaurants.
not any particular,
or
you know,
any
just in
particular big supermarkets because it's pretty much touched in almost every single one of them
My
from
goodness.
what I've gathered.
And that's
Right.
a report. That's
There's cases in Kona, there's
Uh-huh.
cases in Honoka'a, Hilo,
Uh-huh.
Puna, where they've definitely found the slug in their produce.
extraordinary.
Without a doubt.
So now
Yes.
we're talking
Very
about actually
easy
physically
to-
finding the slug, not
physically
remnants
finding
of,
them
of a
and
slime.
people returning them to these stores and going, I found
Okay.
a slug in my
Yes, lettuce,
in
head
my
of lettuce,
in my
whatever.
celery.
Yes, yes.
Many different possibilities
Interesting.
in my kale.
And my celery
So-
was
but
celery was
you
grown
know
in
what?
Chile.
Well,
But
that-
you
that's
can,
that, and
but you
that's my
can take your
worry.
celery home and you
Yeah.
can take your kale home that had slugs on them and you can cook them
Yes.
Right.
and eat them.
Yes.
So that
And
this
that's
is
safe. That's
that's
you're saying that's
safe.
safe. Now we had
you
discovered
can
what
you
was it,
can
5
cook a
minutes?
slug and eat it.
Oh, that's
And you
it.
will not get the parasite. I'm not recommending
Yes,
to
yes,
do
yes,
that.
thank you
Okay,
very
and,
much.
in,
Very good.
and in
Yeah,
places like Thailand and
escargot
China where they
is-
cook their food, most of the cases of rat lungworm come from actually eating undercooked snails.
Escargot.
So and aqua, yes.
Yeah.
So that's an important
Unbelievable.
aspect.
Unbelievable.
So
And many traditional food cultures cooked most of their food and all of their vegetables, or most of their vegetables, and their populations are healthy. You do not have to eat raw vegetables to be
Interesting.
healthy. That is a
Interesting.
myth.
Sure, no,
Okay?
they're great.
In
Myth
fact,
information.
cooking vegetables brings out some of the nutrients in the vegetable and makes
interesting.
it more bioavailable, especially if you put a fat-based topping or dressing on that vegetable.
Oh,
It actually
great.
creates more digestive enzymes in your body to be liberated to digest those nutrients and get them out of the food.
Yep,
So properly
right.
cooked. I'm not talking about the limp, string bean that your mom served you, that is, like, cooked to death. I'm
Canned
talking
20
about
years ago.
properly
So, like,
cooked
turmeric.
vegetables.
Turmeric is an anti-inflammatory that several rat lungworm people. It's an anti-inflammatory, so that's something that is used a lot here. It grows here.
Sure, great.
It's an important medicine for
I think you
rat
have a study.
lungworm, but the brain
Malaria.
heals from
Malaria.
fats, and I'm sure
Right.
Sally has a lot more
Right.
information on fats. In this case, I can't wait for more research on
Sure.
marijuana.
Yep, sure.
Which is
As a
so
treatment,
much
as a
better
medical
as a treatment
Certainly.
than morphine,
Yeah, but-
as a painkiller.
Oh, my, sure, yes. Yeah, but well, any of the opioids, the
Right.
the horrible
And turmeric
ones.
works a lot better, especially at getting into the brain. Turmeric crosses the blood-brain barrier
Oh,
fairly
wonderful.
well. But the problem with getting anti-inflammatory herbs and medicines into the brain is there's something called the blood-brain barrier. The brain doesn't like stuff put up in it. It tries to keep stuff out. So if you're trying to get medicine or herbs or nutrients or whatever up in the brain, that's very challenging. It's part of why this disease is so hard to treat.
Yeah, interesting.
Curcumin, an extract of turmeric, when it is
Yes.
processed with a fat and eaten with a fat,
Yeah.
is one of the few herbs, nutrients, medicines that can go into the brain
Fascinating.
and help
Travel.
with inflammation directly in the brain. But it has to be concentrated appropriately and processed and eaten with a fat
Interesting.
and absorbed, which means
Sure.
you have to have a liver that will absorb fats.
Oh,
So it all
fascinating.
comes back to your own body's
And
health.
so, and then again, I would only think that its most benefit would be if it's super early detection. You have the ability to go right after this rat lung. You immediately start doing that type of a recommendation.
Actually, no. I've had patients that have had this condition for months and months and months,
And it still
been stuck in their progress and
Oh,
just kind of
interesting.
in this
And-
twilight
Great.
state. Get way better
Oh,
from
great.
incorporating some of these natural
Wonderful.
things.
We actually had permission from one patient to mention his name on there. We were not going to anyway, but we actually gave us because he's actually kind of starting a bit of a support group in the Puna area. I believe
Yes.
Smiley
Well,
Disease.
that's
That's what I was
important,
just
too,
about
and
to
it
embark
certainly-
on.
Yeah.
certainly
Is
will-
the
will hopefully
aftercare
help.
of
Well,
these patients
Mm-hmm.
because they are disabled. A
Yeah.
majority
So-
of them are struggling and in severe pain for the rest of their life.
Sure.
They're lucky to heal.
What I have to say though on this particular patient is one of the reasons why he wants to be the support group is because he has demonstrated a almost complete recovery through the clinical practices and our practice, and we have 3 other people who have also reported that they have gotten better through these different things. So
That want to also be part of it.
so my main thing
wonderful.
is that they want what we want to say here is because you get it does not mean that you are going to get meningitis and live in a wheelchair. So there is hope. And
Right.
the earlier we get to it, the better. We do it. There are products out there. Western medicine is going to be very, very slow to get these things. They may get them in 20 or 30 years once they pass FDA approval and all kinds of crazy stuff like that if they ever even try.
Certainly. Yeah.
But
Becomes a numbers game.
it becomes a numbers game. It's very much a numbers game. So there is, but what I'm saying is that if you do suspect you have it, A, get tested, B, start treatment right away, right? C, go see a doctor and get tested. I did that. That was A
You
and C.
mentioned testing, right?
Yeah, and by the
They
way, D,
can
go get
also-
tested.
You can also call the clinic, and this person has agreed to volunteer to be a patient liaison, to talk to people, to help them through the fear of what they're going through,
Oh,
and
that's
see
terrific.
if he can provide support for them because of the healing journey that he's had.
Mm-hmm.
So people are welcome to call the clinic, and we'll give you
Wonderful,
his name
that's
and
great.
phone number because he wants to help
That's great.
people.
So
The
specifically,
University of Hilo has the Rat Lungworm Working Group Facebook page.
Oh, wonderful.
So as more and more people have been infected,
Certainly.
they really need that understanding of really what's going on, and so that is an educational
and
Facebook
another great
page.
way to reach out.
And yes, the
That's
support has definitely it's something that these people that have gone through this are calling are begging for
Sure.
help
Yeah, wonderful.
from after getting this
after the
disease.
suffering. So just so that we can stay with people who keeping information, the gentleman that you are speaking of, that's a patient he's had great response from your treatments, right?
Yeah.
Integrative treatment,
Yeah,
not
go-
just not just herbs, but a combination of Western medicine and natural integrative
Care.
healthcare.
Yeah, wonderful.
One of the
What's
things
needed
that
for that.
it's kind of controversial.
But he is going to have, or has
Right.
already started.
He's volunteered.
He's volunteered.
If you would like to call the clinic and get hooked up with him, he's volunteered to talk to people who
Okay.
are
Right.
concerned.
Okay,
And
great.
one of the controversial natures of
Why don't you just tell them quickly what clinic it is that they're going to call?
Vitality Natural Medicine Clinic in downtown Pahoa, across from the Napa parking lot. 965-2233 www.sally, that's DOCSally.com. I used to be in radio.
You are still in radio, I think.
But what
We're all in radio now.
I have to say, and I hope I don't get too much of a sneak back from my wife on this, is that there is a controversial nature of there is in some states. I don't think it's Hawaii as much because they're one of the reasons we are licensed here, is that a lot of times the researchers won't reach out to us naturopaths in the community because they feel that we won't use some parts of Western medicine. That's why we're saying integrative care. We do use things like steroids to help meningitis. Brain swelling is no joke. Okay, Sally will prescribe Western pharmacology when it is
If you see
necessary.
the need, right?
If you see the
Or if
need.
you see the applicability of it.
Right. And
Our risk-benefit ratio as naturopathic physicians for whether we will use a medication or not is different from an MD. We
Interesting.
need to perceive more benefit and less risk generally to use a drug. And one of the reasons for that is because we have broader treatment options
Certainly.
that MDs are pretty much discouraged by the AMA from using, unfortunately.
by industry.
So, right. So if I have lots of different choices at my disposal
Yeah,
to help
yeah.
a certain condition, I'm less likely to reach for a drug first.
Yeah, which
Okay,
is, and I
so-
think that's a preference that's becoming much more of a wider
Right.
of people, of us as the public.
Right.
I think we are looking for your types of services in not trusting so much in the conventional. And as we've seen, we saw it. I mean, Chris and I, Chris did a lot of research on this prior to hosting the show, and it was frightening. To see again, I keep saying how long this has been known about, how little has been done about it. Then we move rapidly from this ancient time, if you will, of 1930s, and we zip up forward to the 2000s. We have documented cases. We have, clearly people have been affected and suffering from this, and still it appears that we have a huge reluctance from the professional medical groups that where they, and again, it's, and as you say, and I think accurately, it certainly is very seldom the individual doctors. It's much more policy process.
Economics.
And it
It's-
becomes economics.
It's
Absolutely.
huge to have something hit Hawaii called lungworm disease. I always joke around saying maybe if we called it the pink puffy poodle disease,
Yeah, great point.
we could tell the tourists.
Yeah.
You know,
Don't eat the pink puffy
but
poodle
now
disease.
the tourists know about it, so now they want an answer.
Yeah.
Why am I coming
Absolutely.
to this place and there's a brain parasite
Yeah.
that I could potentially
Absolutely.
get, and you're not
Telling
warning
us
me
about
about
it, right.
it. And,
You know,
and
so
this
then
is
we're-
the case where we are warning people about
Absolutely.
it, and we're shifting as a community for the sake of everybody here, so that we can become safer
Absolutely.
from this.
The cover is blown on this condition. We need
Absolutely,
to
great.
stop covering up the
Absolutely.
condition and start educating about it. That will reduce the fear. That will keep the tourists coming. If the Department of Health is addressing
Right,
it,
right,
if they're
I
on
agree
top
with
of
you.
it,
I
if
agree.
we know
Yeah.
this is what we can eat, this is what we maybe shouldn't
Absolutely.
eat when we come to Hawaii.
Absolutely.
If we're given a little handout when we get off the plane, this is safe food. Wash this food
Right.
this way. Don't eat this food. Be a happy, healthy tourist. Spend your money
Okay.
here.
I
That's
have to
what
say-
we need.
I have to say, and it goes back to that restaurant idea, is that one of the knee-jerk reactions to being a state employee is that there's a negative thing to this automatically. There is always a marketing opportunity, even in the negative. Okay, what we always have to say, that's where marketing never gets into bureaucracy. And I've been lucky enough to be on both sides of this equation. So I have to tell you, this is the way that it should go, is, you know what? Indigenous people in tropics never ate raw food. They cooked it. And this is the way they cooked it. Let's present the way
So
tropics
now
have
we're-
always been.
We're
Absolutely.
actually
Which is great
doing
idea, great
doing
point.
something incredible, and we're promoting the actual culture that
Yeah.
these people are
Thank you.
wanting to come and
Yeah.
It's
visit.
about time.
There you
and
go.
we're making ourselves safer
Certainly.
by
Certainly.
growing the appropriate
Absolutely.
food sources.
So let's, if we could, just before we, because we want to summarize, we've so much information. So much information this evening, and thank you all so
I have
much.
a question from our listener. I actually got on my phone just now that we talked about before the show. We never actually mentioned it during the show. I have to say, how long do we got to cook our food?
Right.
Thank you, Smiley.
Well, actually, I was going to say the same thing, Don. It's the same listener. It's our dear friends Patty and Dennis out in
Yes.
Yeah.
Pahoa. But and Patty is and it's a terrifically timed question.
recommend-
We want to run through the list of
Yes.
preventatives. So
Go for it.
so
Smiley.
Go for it,
if you
Smiley.
could tell us.
Well, so as far as cooking food, boiling, they recommend, the Department of Health recommends
you.
boiling for 5 minutes.
Yeah. Okay.
Stir frying at that heat for 5 minutes. Yeah.
Stir frying 5 minutes, so that's like we're not boiling and then.
Stir fries are usually done on high
Yep,
heat,
right, yep.
where
Yeah.
the vegetables are cut in small pieces and turned frequently. So
Yeah,
your
good.
your vegetable needs to be exposed
At the
to
minimum
heat.
of 5 minutes.
Right, so
minimum of
you
5
You can
minutes.
continue to cook, which I
Certainly.
do,
Right.
as far as.
Yep. Yep. So
Or freeze.
It should be soft.
Right. So
Freezing soft.
for cooking specifically, and we repeat ourselves so that on the important points. So for cooking, you are saying boiling is a minimum of 5 minutes. Longer is better.
Yeah.
And then any type of top grill or stir frying, that is 5 minutes as well.
Yeah.
Okay. And then and then Chris, it was what was the 48 hours of frozen?
Yes.
Is that's the way
Which
that,
made me reflect on, I'm always thinking about what are people eating and
Yeah.
are they safe? So today I was thinking about smoothies and how so many cafes
Sure.
are sharing local produce
Absolutely.
fruit smoothies, but I just reflected on it that they freeze it before they turn it into a smoothie.
Certainly.
So
well, most right.
you're
Yes,
safe
yeah.
as long as you're eating frozen food
Right.
in your smoothie.
Although that would be interesting because they might not necessarily
But not
freeze.
raw kale in your smoothie.
No,
Raw
raw
kale
kale,
in your
sure.
smoothie.
Not raw
Yeah,
kale
curly
is
kale's
not
the worst,
safe.
actually.
Yeah, and curly kale's the worst. But any
Yeah.
Wow.
So-
Okay, but so preventively we would
Freezing kale. Freezing kale.
Freezing,
we have
yeah,
Right. You
so
could
we're cooking-
juice. You could go on a raw juice fast if you wanted to. If you juiced all your vegetables into juice, froze that juice for 2 days,
And
then
then
thawed
began
that
the
out and
fast.
drank it, you would be fine.
Okay.
There's ways to do it if you're smart.
Was there not,
Right?
Chris? Do
Yeah,
I remember correctly that there was something about the parasite actually could live and then be regenerated if it was to get wet again?
No, that was my question.
Oh, I see.
I
Okay.
didn't know if it would like not,
Right.
if it could dehydrate a little bit, still be
Because
alive.
we were actually
Alaskan
seeing.
here, freezing
Yeah.
ruptures cell membranes. There's
Right.
only a couple animals on the planet that can be frozen.
And they
One-
make their
And come back.
and they make they make antifreeze. Ravens make antifreeze in their feet.
Oh, right.
Okay, to live in Alaska. Rat
Good to
lungworm
know.
makes no antifreeze.
Don't eat their feet.
So
Got it, yeah.
once they've been frozen solid, their cell walls are ruptured. And this is what happens when you get frostbite and your fingers fall off.
Interesting.
It's the same thing that happens to that poor rat lungworm, poor thing.
Mm-hmm.
When it goes in that freezer, its cell membranes are ruptured.
Okay, let's talk about washing.
Yes.
Yeah.
yes,
My
do
understanding
please.
is there is no way, no how, nothing you can do to wash
Enough.
produce
Well-
enough to be sure you're getting this stuff
Interesting.
off.
So now when
had a
washing it, what are we
conversation-
using? What are we using to wash?
You know, I spoke with Susan
Water
Jarvie,
only?
the head researcher.
What is your name? I'm sorry.
Susan Jarvie,
Okay.
who is from the Hale
School of Pharmacy.
School of Pharmacy.
Yep.
She said, we just have not been funded to be able to test
Interesting.
vegetables. Like we really, that's the next phase. It's just everything from like cherry tomatoes.
Yep.
Can we wash them and eat them? That,
Well, just so that I'm struggling with the generic term of wash. So are we talking about soap and water? We've already eliminated vinegar and
they
bleach.
continue to talk as if washing raw food is all you need to
Do
do.
rinse in water? Just
And
rinsing it in water? No,
the-
so
the-
no.
There's people that soak them. There's people that, you know, you
No.
name it. There's all these techniques to be able to get that raw food to where
Was there anything that you saw that Chris?
we have not been able to get the funding to determine if a piece of lettuce can get the slime off of it.
Mm.
I'll
So
never eat a
freeze it or
salad again,
cook it.
man.
Right. Well, I mean, but isn't it interesting because so much of our recent ways of thinking has so pushed us, toward vegetables and toward all of these things, and now it's the very foods that were going to be our hero foods and then are going to kill us. So
Well, no one's saying not to eat vegetables.
sure, yeah.
Okay. Everyone is saying freeze them or cook them to be safe until there is a real study, there's real evidence, there's real funding, there's real science to prove what is
So
safe.
like squid luau is a great source of taro that is a green, delicious local food.
Yes. Yeah. No, wait though. Did you say squid? Luau?
Squid luau. It can be chicken luau. Luau basically is taro leaf.
I see.
And it is a dish here that is promoted in Hawaiian luau's. And you look at all of these beautiful foods that are sold in a luau setting, and they're cooked.
All of them. Yeah. No, I think
Yeah.
that's a great point. You guys have all, continue to make it over and over again. And we are live on 93.5 Aloha Nation Live. And we're actually going to wrap up. And again, just to remind everyone that we have Smiley here from Green Lake. Thank you so much. That was so wonderful.
Thank
Dr.
you.
Sally is from our Vitality Clinic. Don is from
Vitality Natural Medicine Clinic in Pahoa, downtown Pahoa, across from Napa, 965-2223. No, I didn't. 965-222 Treesbrook.
It's pure limonene.
www.docsally.com. That's docsally.com.
There's a question here as does pure limonene kill the parasite? D-limonene is an extract from citrus peel. It's used, it's a great option to help kill parasites, and we use it to treat H. pylori infections in capsules. We take it for that, and it does have some effect in that way. It's also used to spray buildings for termites.
Oh my.
So it's a great alternative termite. There's no need to spray these toxic chemicals all around your house, because there's companies like Akamai, I know is one of them, that uses pure D-limonene and it works. Okay.
Wonderful.
So the question is, does pure limonene kill the parasite? I don't think it's been tested.
Not that I'm aware
We
of.
cannot say that it does.
Right.
You can eat a little bit of it, so it's something that I would love to see tested. I would
Yeah,
love to
that's-
see that tested. And if I had to pick one thing to wash with, if I was going to try, it would probably, be a D-limonene solution. Citrus salt, for
Yeah.
example,
Yeah.
would be something. I still would not trust it for salads or whatever, but to wash your fruits before you peel them, that's a great option.
And lime is also one that's used to protect against parasites
Sure,
in general
citrus, I
around the
think,
equator.
there's always been.
Citrus, yes.
Yeah, I use
Don't
citrus to
think
clean my
powerful.
engine
Citrus
block.
essential
That's-
oil.
Similar to similar.
Somebody's got to have some humor.
So what
up here.
what do you think? I mean, we've talked about so many things about this, and there is still so much more. And I hope that we actually will get together and continue this conversation more, because I think that there is more to do. And it is it's wonderful. We've had the opportunity to have a little bit of interaction with folks that are out listening to us here at 93.5 Aloha Nation Live. We only have a couple minutes, so I thought that if we could just run through, perhaps like from the start, some of the things that we talked about, and if we can summarize them. So because I think we started off this evening with talking about just how long this has been known. This that there is this disorder, there is this parasite and yet here we are, 2017, and we're still lacking funding. We're still lacking testing. We still don't know, how to even test the foods. We don't necessarily. We've just recently came to where we have what you feel are very reliable, definitive testing methods now that can say that people have this particular parasite. So again, starting off, we have known about this since, what was the earliest, Chris? That
1935.
Yep.
1935.
That's a long time.
and then our first case in Hawaii, that was
It was 1960, actually, the documented one.
1960.
But documented.
Okay, and then you had come up with some, and one thing I wanted to say is, can you tell us a little bit about, and correct me for the information, but I think it was an Animal Planet
Yeah.
that came and
Yes.
Monster
So-
inside me.
That'll
Yeah.
make you cook
So,
your food
because,
so much
Phoenix-
because
that-
that'll give everybody
Oh,
a
man,
reference to
scared
the
me.
place to go as well, right?
Yes, so we had the opportunity to work with Animal Planet on a show called Monsters Inside Me that will be aired soon. I don't know the specific
When
dates.
did they do that? Do you know?
A few weeks ago.
Oh, okay.
It's
well,
been almost
They
before
came-
you know.
I've
Rat
watched-
Lungworm.
Yes. So it is just in my greatest dreams
Yeah.
that I had an opportunity to share on a large
Yeah,
scale because that's
absolutely.
been really my push is to
Yeah.
try to make
Yeah.
awareness.
No, your
so-
work is effortless. You just never stop on this, and the community thoroughly appreciates it.
So much.
Again,
Yay,
I mean,
Yay, I
it
love
is-
you.
we really do. I mean, it's unfortunate that because for those of us who are lucky enough to know your son, an extraordinary young man, and we were just so worried sick. About the entire thing when it happened, and then we went, for those things. But finish telling us about Animal Planet, and then I do want to know what happened to those blood tests. But tell us about Animal Planet first.
Well, so we basically just shared with the nation.
So they did like an interview with you. Did they have like cameras and
They did. They had a crew that came and spent the whole day with us. We interviewed and tried to answer as many questions that could really help inform everybody.
sounds terrible.
about
But
it.
did you actually have an opportunity? Were there some slugs hanging around that you could?
So I did take them to a spot, an undisclosed spot, where there was a raft that I knew if I was to flip over the raft, because slugs love dark, wet spots, that
Yep.
I found a pile of semi-slugs.
Uh-huh.
It's not hard to actually find semi-slugs.
Actually, that should be part of our preventative, information.
So we did
is to
film the
come up with
semi-slugs
a,
and had some great footage so people could really
See them.
see this
Absolutely.
particular, which, yeah.
Yeah,
so
because
it was
that's
a great
great.
experience.
So we should be looking for this. I mean, and as you get information about it, Wesley, then we'll get more information about it. And here at 93.5 Aloha Nation Live, we'll pass that information on. Then that would be great. And then if you could just whatever happened to the blood test? They
So
took my blood.
So I was actually given a letter explaining that about my blood test, but I think you can call the university
Okay.
and inquire specifically about your test.
Okay, so we can get numbers and stuff and information
You're
about
referring
that.
to a group of people that volunteered to give blood to see if they had.
You're right.
been
Or
exposed
if we were going to be the superhuman that could cure it.
Yeah, the
several
goal
years
I was kinda
was
hoping I was a superhuman.
2 years ago, a blind test.
Yeah.
Anybody could come, and the Halo Medical.
I think you had a great
the
turnout,
Aloha
didn't you have a-
Urgent Healthcare.
Yeah.
In also as well as the lab.
Yes.
The
Next door.
lab next door. We spent the summer gathering up
Do you know how many
about
people?
500
500 people.
and 25% of the study showed positive for some kind of
Well, now all those people are going to want
exposure
to know.
to rat lungworm. So it's still there's still a lot to address as far
Which
as
doesn't mean that 25% of people were sick.
Right, interesting.
Because if
Thank
your immune
you.
system can fight it off and kill the parasite before it gets to your brain, you're not going to be very sick.
Wow.
Which goes back to why we want to stay healthy.
Yeah,
So that-
absolutely.
Right.
So if we could, Smiley, is there, why don't we give you guys each a couple of minutes if you wish. We're running over, but it's important to our community. So, but is there anything that you wanted to say that you didn't get a chance to say, or anything in particular you want to re-say?
well, a few things that I would like to address quickly is water filtration, being diligent with keeping your water tanks and your filters clean, checking your gutters, cleaning your roof, being
Preventative.
so preventative with the thing that's going to stop the parasite is 0.5 microns on your system, or boiling your water. So being very careful with drinking water.
Was there anything with the ultraviolet? Wasn't there a parasitic
That was
ultraviolet?
the 0.5.
Okay, there's a difference between the micron filter and there was actually an ultraviolet parasitic little,
Yeah, they still want you to use the.
right.
The
of course.
ultraviolet are
Yeah.
extremely important,
Yeah,
and,
okay.
and if you can afford it,
Yeah.
which is in
I
Puna,
learned
we're
what-
realistic.
Yeah, right, good
with
point.
the reality of
Yeah.
the extreme diversity that we're dealing with,
Sure,
with people, what they're capable of doing,
sure. Right.
everything
because
from
the
being able.
electricity as well that's required to run it.
Absolutely. So yes, there's all a realm of different people that have been stricken with it, and so
Yeah.
we do have to be just continue
Yeah.
working and educating.
Well, I can't thank you enough for coming on the show and taking your time to do this. You did the amount of effort that you put into the community and on not only this, you know, in
We've
green.
only just
you know, That's
begun.
right. You know, but I want you to know everybody appreciates it, and everybody is right there, and then we all do. We love you guys. and
It's amazing
you
how
know,
much people are
yeah.
learning from
No,
each
it's-
other and educating
It's
each other.
wonderful,
It's really
wonderful.
open and
Yep, and Dr.
being
Sally,
addressed.
thank you so
Oh,
much
thank
for
you for
coming. I
having
so
me.
appreciate you coming. And then again, is it things that you would like to touch on too?
Okay, well, let's go over again the options for people to get tested.
Great.
We now have the ability to have a blood test. Now, no lab test is 100% accurate.
Sure.
Considering that this is a pretty reliable test, and it's considering that it's pretty affordable.
Yep, I agree.
$80 to $150 to get this test.
If you
your-
do have insurance, it is covered.
Your insurance should cover it if
Yep,
your
okay.
primary care doctor on your insurance
Yep,
orders
right,
it.
right.
Okay, so to help people do that, we are offering we will write down the test,
Mm-hmm.
the name of the test, and everything your doctor needs to order that test. If you don't want to order it through us, you can just get this piece of paper from us,
Yep.
take it to your doctor, ask them to run the test for you, so that your insurance can cover it.
Yep, beautiful.
Okay, so that's available. We really like to emphasize prevention. There's two
Yep,
levels of
absolutely.
prevention. There's prevention in your environment,
Yep.
which Smiley talked a lot about. Your water, being very, very careful with raw foods, freezing foods. Consider being creative and adaptive with the way you do your food culture so that you get the nutrition from your food without risking this
Yeah.
disease,
Yeah.
and actually respect the environment that you're in. It's like
Absolutely,
we need to
great
adapt the environment we've chosen to live in instead of trying to bring our cultural values from where we came from here and just trying to push them onto
Absolutely.
this environment. This environment will fight back.
Absolutely, it
So-
does. Yep.
What you're saying, just because you think something's healthy doesn't mean that it's healthy here. Okay? So people need to learn that and adapt to it. The filtering situation with the water is really good, and people also need to learn that their own body has parasite killing and preventative mechanisms, that if your body is functioning in a healthy manner, that there are ways that you yourself can help screen out parasites that can slip in despite all these measures, because no one's perfect. None of our measures are going to be perfect. You know?
Absolutely.
So a lot of it has to do with your own stomach acid production. Is it the right pH? If it's not the right pH, you're not protecting
Thank you for
yourself
for that information.
from
I
those
had no idea.
parasites.
I appreciate
And that's a
that.
hidden silent epidemic in our culture because of the stress level of our culture for many reasons.
just
So-
one more statement that a listener was wanting to bring up was copper. Copper strips around your water tanks, around your fruit trees. Penny, first of all, is not copper. So using pennies
don't work.
is not going to be functional. Copper can deter slugs, and salt as well can be a great deterrent. But just learning today, copper does lose its value and its strength over a period of time. So you want to kind of find out, and it's very
It's
expensive.
super expensive.
So
Yeah.
it turns green.
Yeah, the patina.
It is potentially a good thing to help keep
Deter,
slugs away.
right.
Deter
And that's
slugs.
like for around raised beds, garden areas, that type of thing, water tanks.
Yes.
But remember, flatworms also carry
Houses.
this parasite.
Yeah, no, great points.
Flatworms are,
Yeah.
it's not just slugs.
Great.
Okay.
Yeah, there's a lot of that we didn't get to touch on this evening about the particular carriers, the possibility of frogs. That Chris had discovered some of that. You know, were you done, Dr. Sally? Did you want to say more?
The
Animals. That's
Animals.
another thing I really wanted to just
Oh,
really
yeah,
quickly
yes.
share is not only humans are susceptible to getting this disease, but we've had horses that have gotten rat lungworm,
Oh my
and
gosh.
dogs, and
Dogs can get it.
parrots, and cats. Not from what we've discovered, or wild pigs for some
My
reason.
gosh. That's
so
like a-
keeping
that's-
your
That's
animals,
like a whole
your
show on its
animals,
own.
yeah, keeping don't put food at night or water outside. Be very careful with the food bowls and cleaning
For
them
your pets.
for your pets
That's
as
great
well.
Put a layer
information.
of salt down and put your dog's food on a salt.
Interesting.
Okay, that would help protect your dog.
Yep,
Yeah.
that's great advice. I don't think that
Didn't touch on that. That was
anybody's
important.
we haven't said anything about
Right.
that,
Yeah,
and,
yeah.
and people love their pets, and
Yeah.
people, and especially
family too.
in the horse communities.
Yep. So you're generally
Oh,
going to
gosh.
find their hind legs become paralyzed with
Interesting.
dogs or
Interesting. So those are some
horses.
of the things.
Those are symptoms.
Wow. Wow.
Wow.
Thank you for that. And like I said, I mean, here on 93.5 Aloha Nation Live, we have to touch on this. And so the show, we will have to do a continued, another show about this to talk about so many things.
How things
So,
are going.
Absolutely. Then was there any
I
other?
think that is plenty.
Was it?
I think
it
people's
was.
brains are
awesome.
probably
I
just
know.
about ready to explode.
I bet. Well, now they have brain swelling
Right.
just from our Don. Did
Right.
you want to? Once again, do tell us, please, where they can find Dr. Sally. And
In downtown Pahoa, in the big green building across from Napa parking lot, or www.docsally.com. That's docsally.com, or you can call us 965-2233.
Thank you, Tom.
that,
I got it right there.
he did hesitate.
I think
He
people
did.
need to know that they need to be aware, they need to be akamai, they need to think about these things, they need to not do fear.
Sure,
If you
I
come
agree.
at this with fear, what you do is we don't want to look at the things we're afraid
Yeah.
of. So we
Absolutely.
want that to go away.
Yep, yep.
So the next thing
Hawaii
we know,
is awesome.
we're
Yeah.
ignoring that. Hawaii is a beautiful place to live, and you need to respect.
And for anybody interested in making donations for research, the University of Hilo needs donations
Yep,
to
interesting.
keep these researchers
Sure.
in getting more information and understanding for
Well,
this disease.
hopefully-
So hopefully the Department of Health does
Do-
help
do-
the researchers and
yeah.
do some
And
funding.
then, like we
but
mentioned,
by all
we need
means,
to
people
call.
are allowed to donate to the
Yeah.
university
Directly, sure.
directly.
And we will need to, and we are going to try to engage some of our local elected officials. I know that Russell Ruderman has been absolutely wonderful in keeping the public informed about what was happening with the rat
Yay,
lungworm.
Russell! We
Yay,
love you,
Russell.
Russell! Woo!
Well, thank you for the effort. I think that Janet and Eileen are the folks at our local level
Yep.
are also very aware of this, and I ran into Eileen today, and she was extraordinarily interested in our show. She was very helpful in the young lady at the School of Pharmacy, giving us her name and some literature as well, I think. And I think that these people genuinely care, and which is what they should be doing as our elected officials. I do think, and that's another topic we barely touched on, and perhaps we aren't the right folks, to talk about it specifically. But there is an issue with funding. It does appear to have a level of they're just not. It's like almost a will.
Right.
Like a political will, to take this seriously, and then as you mentioned, which is fascinating to me, that the medical profession, is not more engaged in tropical diseases here where we live.
In the last few weeks, there's been an amazing shift
Wonderful
in regards with
news.
Hilo Medical Center. The head of Hilo Medical Center is John Martell, and
Yeah.
he has dealt with the majority of these rat lungworm cases here, and he never ever wants to see another rat lungworm case as long as he lives.
No one that's ever treated this
But
ever wants to see it
they
again.
really have come together
Wonderful.
as far as just getting a protocol in order
Yep,
at
great.
Hilo Medical Center, which is a protocol that I believe in. So I'm feeling so much better that
Wonderful.
people are going to be going in there. They are going to be looking for rat lungworm now.
Wonderful.
In diagnosing, and
Wow.
they're going to be given proper treatment. That
Mm-hmm.
I believe these doctors have really learned a lot from all of the different cases
Wonderful.
and have figured a lot of great stuff out.
That's
so
wonderful.
Yeah,
That's
it
a
is.
huge
It's, and
change.
it's
That
very
is
Massive
important.
change.
Yeah, very
Massive.
important. And it is. But I'm going to let these folks go. Thank you so much once again. Thank you so much. 93.5 Aloha Nation Live. And, we we'll see you all next Tuesday. We have Sarah Williams, actually, from Pahoa as well. We're going to be discussing homelessness and services or lack of social services. And we are hoping to have some of our elected officials come on our station and speak to these issues, you know, and to the issues that impact our community. We're all working together to try to make this beautiful green planet sustainable. We want to take care of each other. We want to learn from each other, and we want to make it a community that helps each other and works together. And again, thank you so much of all of you for coming on.
Thanks
And
for doing this.
and we'll let our DJ take over.
Thanks, Roger.
Thank you, Roger.
Yay!
Why don't you play my song?
Sharkies, huh?
Wow, that was cool.
Yep.
Thank you so much.
From